All right, I think we're on.
Are we on?
We are way on.
So, okay, perfect.
Well, everybody, thanks for joining us. We're here for our first time with a different format, just chatting, talking about our experience at Flying Monkey Con.
Great experience.
It was fantastic.
Yeah.
And you were kind enough to put together kind of a summary of the stats and all that stuff.
Absolutely, yeah. We'll kind of bust through that. We'll talk about lists, armies present, and then afterwards kind of talk on our own games and kind of personal experiences with what we had. But I mean, all in all, it's like a spoiler alert. It was great. I think that wraps it up for today. We can be done.
It was good. It was perfect.
It was super good.
Thanks for tuning in, Ian. You're the real hero here. Oh, well, speaking of the real heroes, Flying Monkey Con. So,
oh my goodness sakes.
We went to the Poorhouse out in Wichita, Kansas, which is where the tournament was held, and we specifically brought back a 6-pack of our favorite beer. We talked about it, I think, in a previous stream, maybe the last one. Derek had the war beard.
Yeah, we might have talked about it in like maybe the last 3 streams. Actually.
So the Irish Red.
Yeah.
Give us a review, Shannon.
It's just, man, it's light, slightly nutty, but it doesn't have like that kind of sour finish to a lot of reds or a lot of the high palate things. It's not overly hoppy like a lot of things that come out of Colorado. I know a lot of people love super hoppy stuff. I'm not a big hops fan. This is fantastic. They were part of the deal when you go to Flying Monkey. If you stay at the hotel that's there, they have this like happy hour thing that's included in with the hotel, and you get 3 drinks. And our group literally ran the keg dry of Warbeard on the day that we went up. Just so good. So that is what we're both enjoying this evening. Fantastic stuff. If you can find it anywhere. Highly recommended. Highly recommended. Absolutely great.
All right, Colin, there's your beer commercial. If you're catching us after the fact. You want to go ahead and get started with the slides?
Absolutely. Let's jump in.
All right, here we go. So Flying Monkey Con. One thing to note, Derek, I wasn't able to get Derek in here. Carlos, my favorite beer channel on YouTube. Oh, yeah, so Derek wasn't able to make it, and it wasn't because Derek didn't want to or because we didn't prepare for him. It's because
we didn't want him.
Yeah, we didn't want him at all. The 3 inches was not enough for us.
Derek.
We give him a hard time, but he's really the best.
He's just the best.
And we'll talk about how he's so good that people will hurt themselves just not to disappoint him.
Yeah, it takes an extra half hour to get started at a tournament for Derek to walk around and not only introduce himself, but introduce everybody else to everyone else.
Shaking hands, all of it.
It is, but it makes the tournament, right? Like it starts everything off. Having those sort of interactions and those kind of friendly people. This tournament was full of it. It was great. It was great.
So anyway, it's my bad. I wasn't able to get the audio visual stuff working because this is our first time into space on this, and I got to learn a little bit of things like why people don't do this format where we're all sitting together in a room, and why they do the calls on one side of the board. So,
or like where my hand goes over there.
Yeah, like this is not the direction I thought.
No.
So anyway, we'll get that cleared up next time. We might just do regular calls, like you might see in Warhammer Weekly or with the Honest Wargamer.
Sure.
Anyway, let's crack on, as they say in a different part of the world.
Absolutely. So the first thing that I got to say about Flying Monkey Con, and I cannot stress this enough, was how even the distribution was across it. I'm a big data nerd. Love data. So as soon as the list went public, I built a big Excel sheet full of everything from spellcast to wounds to et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the big thing, that everyone cares about, everyone asks about when they're looking at a breakdown of all the lists attending a tournament is how many armies are showing up and are they all Marathi? Like that's kind of like the base question.
Like how many Kronspines, how many Marathis, how many big gods are on the table?
Well, because last time, still great tournament. I went to the last Flying Monkey Con. There were like 7 or 8 Marathis. Like you were probably playing a Marathi.
You played 2 or 3?
I played 2, I think. Yeah, I played 2. It just, and the lack of variety gets a little bit grinding, and the lack of variety arises from meta, from like an imbalance in the game.
Right.
So one can hopefully build that backwards and say that a really even distribution means that the game is in a good spot because of what you've got showing up. Out of the 51 lists that were there, we did have a buy round for a couple rounds until the day 2 hangover drop always happens. But of those 51 lists, 24 factions showed up, and there's a little asterisk next to that because I personally consider Iron Jaws, Bone Splitters, and Cruel Boys to be 3 different factions because they can't take each other's things. But 24 factions showed up, and only 3 armies had more than 2 lists present. That was Sylvaneth had 3, Sons of Behemoth had 3, and then Stormcast had 7. It's the poster boy army. There's always going to be a ton of Stormcast. And that's fine.
Yeah, did we cover how Carlos asked how many crossbinds? Did we cover that in the?
Yeah, we break it in.
We'll get there
later
Carlos.
in the things.
You have to stay. This is how we grab you.
Yeah, let's switch it to the last slide right now.
This is not planned at all. It's just good design.
But that breakdown of armies, it means that when you're showing up, odds are you are playing against 5 different armies. You get 5 different experiences. So even if you're not, try harding it with a list or really in it to win it, you are there to just have a good time, play a bunch of good games against a bunch of different armies, meet some super cool people, see some beautiful paint. Then you get some variety as opposed to how many color schemes can you put on tech lists, right?
Right.
There were only 2 factions not represented, which again hints at the meta being in a pretty good place, or at least people really enjoy their armies if they're not super competitive. Like they still have fun playing.
Right.
No Hedonites of Slaanesh. They're in an odd spot right now. They got beat with the Nerf bat real hard.
Right, and they haven't yet to recover. They're still in the hospital.
Yeah, well, but it's so weird because that's despite
universal
GW.
healthcare.
Well,
no. Why aren't they getting better? I don't get it.
That's because they wanted to slow damage themselves over time and not ever actually get better. No, that's despite Games Workshop coming out with their state of the meta, saying that they're one of the best 5 armies. I know.
Was that on there?
That's one of their things is because the people that really know the army and know how to play them well and are really good at not getting into combat, kind of flinching away from everything, doing those little wounds and getting those battle tactics, can still use them to win, right? And if the only people taking the army are people that do it well, you shoot up in the stats with your win percentage, like Bone Splitters did in early this handbook here.
Let's keep it going.
Absolutely, gotcha. So this whole lack of meta. Here's our answers to our questions, right?
All right.
So only 5 Crown Spines showed up.
And there were 51 lists, right?
51 lists.
51 lists.
5 Crown Spines. That's
just shy
awesome.
of 10%. Yeah, like
it's
you're afraid of seeing this stuff, and this is pre Purple Sun nerf, right?
Correct. It came out too close to the tournament, so we were still playing with the old school Sun. But yeah, 5 out of 51. That's just wow. It's fantastic.
Right.
I ended up playing against 1. I don't know. Did you get any games?
My first game was against a Kronspine, and he actually went 4-1 in this tournament, and he went 4-1 at Chicago Open. Well, I'll talk about him.
Gotcha.
But it was a tough matchup, and anyway, we'll talk about the lists and the experience that our lists give, at least on my side.
Sure. Sure.
As we get on here, but
yeah, just the 5 Crown Spies. Now, part of that, and I hear that GW's holding to this with like the KC and whatever, is that you got to have the Crown Spine, right? You can't bring in a little proxy model or something.
And we had that, right? That was the intent.
That was the intent.
I think there was some miscommunication, and one person had a non-legit Crown Spine,
right?
And I'm sure it was completely innocent, right?
Yeah.
Like people aren't out there like doing anything nefarious. But yeah, by requiring that, to the point, it's going to reduce the number of Crown Spines you see because it is an expensive model. And at the time, I think it was the only way to get it was through the box.
I think it was maybe out for like a week, as you could buy it as a solo.
Yeah, maybe not really enough time to buy it and paint it up. If you're really into it, I think you already had one.
Probably true. So, like you had said, Purple Sun as well. Only 5 of them. In fact, there's a whole breakdown of Magic slide coming up, talking on things. But overall, like all these things that we think of as being like super meta and this is OP and whatever, just not a ton of it showed up. And I know that we did.
And what did show up? It wasn't the winner.
No, exactly. Like, right, we did some different breakdowns of stuff with like, did this have an effect on overall battle score and whatever. And I remember you sending me just a little gif of like, nothing matters.
Nothing matters, yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, my day job is data and analytics. And so I was thrilled when Shannon took the baton on putting this together because I didn't want my job to become my hobby. So like if you're in the driver's chair, great. I gave you my high level notice that like based on the limited data set of 51 lists and their performance, there was no serious correlation between lots of stuff. There was no serious correlation between the number of drops you took and how well you placed.
Yep.
There was no correlation between how many monsters you had. There was no correlation between how many spellcasts you had. There was no correlation between any of that stuff. And while it's hard to get a correlation on 51 lists, it's refreshing to know that when you're playing in a field that's broad, you're going to have a honest Warhammer happening. And what is honest Warhammer, you say? Well, that's a great question, Shannon. Honest Warhammer is you can't just skew into one thing and then know that all you're going to fight is X, and so you trump X, and rock, paper, scissors, I win. You have to bring something that was, in this case, was literally an all-comers list.
Absolutely.
And if an army had the tools to just go out with everybody, like in an honest game, those are the ones that did the best.
Yep, and I do think that did play in quite a bit to what we were seeing, that variety, especially when it came down to battalions. And I think we've got a slide on that later on. Just to finish up this one here. Yep. 4 cogs showed up, 3 gnashing jaws, and then after that, no other endless spell or invocation taken more than 2 times. Like, again, variety, right? It's not like when we were in the Age of Geminids, where there's Geminids everywhere. It's not the Age of Life Swarm, where there was Life Swarm everywhere. People all had a different idea of this is what I want my army to do, and I think it can do pretty well against a bunch of stuff, and they took it, as opposed to, this is my only option for doing well, I have to take this.
Right.
Refreshing.
And Ian, your comment about the OBR, I don't know if you recall, but Shannon recently came into some OBR, and we hope to in the next few months as we hobby through it, since this is not like I
need a lot of acetone.
It's not a money making endeavor, so this is us painting our own stuff. We're hoping to get some OBR out, and I know that you and I have had some conversations. I think that there's some actually good competitive lists in OBR. They might not ever go 5-0, but I think you got some pretty reasonable 4-1-3-2, and that revolve around pieces that people aren't normally taking. As soon as you find something that everyone says is bad, that's like my favorite piece in every army, because now it's like, can I find something good in there?
I also think OBR is just one of those lists where you need to commit to it and learn it with all of their orders instead of like the general commands. Like, you need to know, this is what OBR does. These are my 15 different options that I have for the whole turn. This is my plan. And that's just going to come with, like, repetition of playing. Right. So I don't think that you're ever going to find a time, except when they have a 2+ unrendable, whatever save. Because that's a no-blame, piloting sort of thing. But you're not going to have a time at this point with OBR where it's going to just shift real quick and everyone's going to be like, oh, I'll take OBR now. I think that you have to play them for them to be good.
Just kind of like you in Feck.
Sure, just like good old Feck. A lot of people ranking them way down here, but if you really know what they do, they can be like right there in the middle.
I don't know, man. Watching your game with Luke. Oh, so by the way, today was the release of the Vault Battle Report on Mini Wargaming.
Yeah.
And you did really well into Luca's new Zinch. And while those guys aren't always the most competitive, they play so much. They know
their rules.
They know their rules
for certain.
Well, they know, like, most of the time. I think one of the complaints is that when they drop rules, then everyone's like, "Oh, how could you possibly drop that?" Well,
they play 16 armies.
Yeah, 16 armies.
That's why.
In that one system.
And also, he's playing a book that has been out for a week.
So the reason I brought that up is because you're talking about how there's play in that old Feck book, and watching you scream. Spoiler alert! Watching you scream some of his stuff off the boards is giving me some PTSD.
Chef's kiss.
Because I love low bravery garbage, because I don't know what it is with me and garbage.
So that Kronspine Magister nonsense. My guess is that we will see in this new battle scroll. The Kronspine rule get a little FAQ saying that it only gains the thing if the spell is removed from play. That's all you got to do to fix that whole deal. Is it overpowered right now? Yeah, because I think people are abusing poor language. Once that goes, it'll be gone, and everyone will be like, yeah, that probably wasn't the intent.
Right. But to answer your question like straight up, my dude, if it's played like that, yeah, it's absolutely overpowered.
Sure.
Having a level 3 undelevelable cron spine in their face for as early as the top of 1, if you're lucky with your rolls, that's absolutely game breaking.
It's nonsense.
Yeah, and even if they're damaging it, it doesn't matter because then you're just consuming your endless spell nearby. And at that point, you're at +3 to consume it, and it's a casting 5, so it's basically just don't roll snake eyes, and that's a 2.7% chance. So 2.7% chance to have a little bit of play for your opponent. Otherwise, just eat this cron spine and lose the game.
Yep.
And
I can't imagine that was the intent.
Yeah.
I bet like if you go to the German wording of the book or whatever, it's slightly different, and like they don't even question it. They're like, no, that's dumb.
Yeah, and it's obviously plenty good without that baloney.
Yeah, it doesn't need it.
Ian and I, Ian in the chat, we did a game this weekend. We've done so many games recently.
Nerd.
Sorry, it's just a habit. I wish I had like little flashes so that I could animate a flash whenever I push them up. So we had a game, and I brought the Incarnate. I regret bringing those 30 pinks. I've never done it before, and I did it on the stream. It was dumb. But we did that game, and I did not play it with that interpretation. 2.7% chance. Yeah, I missed his thing. So I do stats for a living. So we brought that, and it was still very, very good. And that cron spine won me the game, 100%. So play it without it, and I think that you're doing your opponent a favor. And if somebody comes to you and says, I'm playing it like this, my hot take, say maybe next time you don't decide to do that, because we're all supposed to be having a good time, right? And if you're not having a good time, what are you doing? Which is a theme that's going to come up when we start talking about my list.
Oh, and mine too. Everyone hates playing Flesh Eater quotes.
Especially Derek.
It's mostly Derek.
Mostly Derek, who's not here to defend himself.
He's right there, though. I see him in the chat.
I thought that was Darktron calling me out.
No. He's right there.
Oh, no.
Well,
he's here to defend himself.
Oh, man. I think, what is next slide? Magic?
Let's find out.
We'll find out right now. Battalions. Hey, also a fun thing to talk about.
Right.
So, when this General's Handbook came out, when I read it through, I remember us kind of talking as a group on Discord about these different battalions. And the first thing that I thought of when I saw them, because you've got Bounty Hunters, Expert Conquerors, and then Battle Regiment.
Right.
To me, that is a rock, paper, scissors that you are forced to choose on now. And as much as I dislike Bounty Hunters, I think it's a little too much. I think it goes against the concept of the book, which is take all your little boot sloggers. The fact that it's in there and everyone wants to take it means that now you're not taking a battle regiment, or you're taking a battle regiment and the thing.
Right.
And we got to see this reflected in the data, which again, I love data, is this sort of really cool rock, paper, scissors between those three things. So out of our 51 lists, we had 14 expert conquerors, 46 battle regiments, and 26 battle regiments. And
more battle regiments than the lists.
and 27 bounty hunters. So while, expert conquerors was obviously the less popular choice, the other two were about neck and neck. Like, did you take bounty hunters, or did you take a battle regiment, or did you take both and end up kind of in that middle? And what this left us with was this average drops per list being 6.176.
Yeah.
The average drops per list last year when I did this whole breakdown of Fly Monkey Con was like 2.
Yeah.
It was crazy. I got the chance to go first a couple times, and I play like a 9-drop army.
Right.
It's ridiculous. So you've got all these people that are sitting there now thinking, God, is it better to have first turn, or is it better to have bounty hunters? And I think that making that choice be a relevant choice and being something that players have to make is good for the meta. That it's healthy to not have it be, can I get down to a 1-drop, and if I can't, well, I guess, I'm in trouble. But then to balance out that bounty hunters, which can spank some Night Hunt a little bit, which is good.
There's a lot of armies. OBR we talked about earlier are definitely susceptible to it, but you can play into that, believe it or not. Maybe one of these days we'll do like a theoretical list crafting, like here's all the wild stuff I think can have play.
Sure.
Where you can play into people's perceptions on that and kind of punish them with the sort of regeneration that you can get out of some of the combos in that book.
or things like running a bunch of coalesced source lines. So it's, oh, guess what? You lost your 1-drop, and I don't care.
Right.
Right? So little things like that. So the average Galatian veterans per list was 3.157. So roughly 3. So does it make bounty hunters worth it? If every list has maybe got 3 units of Galatian veterans, yeah, then probably bounty hunters is worth it.
I mean, it's absolutely worth it. Having anyone that's played against it and had a key unit that was a Galatian veteran and got booty blasted, as Mr. Derek likes to say, right off the board, they can really appreciate how much that hurts and how good it is.
But to Carlos's point here, were there any lists with 0 Galatian veterans? And yeah, there were. So like I'm playing
Derek.
Yeah, Derek. No
pigs,
Galatian veterans.
Pigs.
Yeah,
all pigs.
I think the other IJ had a bunch of GV. I'm playing Feck, and I've only got the 1 unit of ghouls because I'm taking Terrorgeist as my battle line with my sub faction. There were a lot of people that leaned into it of, haha, I see you're going to take bounty hunters. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm just not going to give you anything to bounty hunt.
Right.
And now you've wasted your battalions. And I think that risk at a tournament is good. It's healthy.
And you can actually get in those bounty hunter players' heads by putting a garbage Galatian veteran unit. Like, it's important, maybe it does some damage, but you put it way out of position. Mm-hmm. And anybody that comes over there, they're gonna blast that thing off the table like no problem. But then where are their units on the board for the rest of the game? And I think that you can really take advantage of people's mentality on, oh, I've got a bounty hunter, it must bounty hunt.
Yep.
So give them a target, and they're going to shoot at it, and they should have been shooting at something else completely. And you can win the game, not because you didn't lose your Galatian veterans, but because they didn't adequately use their own army.
Yep.
That's my hot take, anyway.
I mean, you can also, my round 5 opponent, talk about him a little bit. He was playing Soulblight. You can just go for a target-rich environment. Yeah. So he took 20 ghouls, 20 Graveguard, 20 Graveguard, 30 skeletons. Yeah, you might have bounty hunters, but you still got to go kill all of that, and that's like, what was that, 6 units, 5 units, whatever it is, like spread all across the board. Dogs, the wolves are also Galatian veterans, so He had 2 units of those as well. Like, yeah, now you've got your 2 units of bounty hunters. They've got to pick. They've only got 5 rounds of combat if you're in combat, 5 turns worth of combat if you're in combat on turn 1. Are you going to actually benefit from it, or is there going to be too much for you to bounty hunt?
Right.
I really like this rock, paper, scissors thing in it. And yeah, it's a little tough to do some of the grand strategies without the veterans, but it's not impossible.
Right.
It's not impossible.
So real quick, Darktron asked thoughts on the new Sons of Behemoth battle tome. I guess I'll speak to it since between everyone here, I was the one person that played them on the stream a couple days ago with Derek. I like it. I think it's in a better spot. The fear that I had and that I'd seen online was that the bracketing capture, the mightier makes rowdier, was going to create a situation where you were even more afraid of taking any damage.
Standier makes blandier.
Yeah, Standier makes blandier. Where was that from? Was that
Honest Wargamer?
Yeah. So shout out to them. I mean, that's the fear. I don't think that's how it played out for me personally. I'm not. I think in the stream I said I'm not like a regular SOB player, but the fact that if you really want to get damage anymore, you got to take a few of the smalls, in my opinion. At least if you want to do damage and still be able to like win reliably. Have a say in the game, because if you take just 4 bigs, you either can get burned down or not. The smalls give you the damage. It feels more like you've got an actual really big giant, but you've got a bunch of other giants. The army has more roles. It encourages a more aggressive play style. And I found myself keeping the big back, and the list was designed to keep the bigs back so that the little guys could go out and do damage. I think it's a fun book. It makes me want to take more of the big ones because the suplexing is so fun, but I didn't get to play with it, but like just that shout where I just roll 2d6 and just like people run away, I'm terrified of that.
Oh man, I love doing that.
I know.
I don't even play
felt like Shannon. I was
it's
like,
great.
This is unlimited power. So there's a lot of stuff in there that I like. I think it's going to be more fun to play against. I think it's going to be more fun and engaging to play once people get their their minds out of the old book and into the new book, which is something that happens with every release. It's doom and gloom until people realize, well, I just take different stuff, or I just have a different strategy. So hopefully, Dank, that's a hot take for you that means something. That's just my feeling is that if the Kron Spine were to get an adjustment from the Battle Scroll before KC Open, which I'm going to and Derek's going to, I would consider taking a big and 10 smalls because it was a blast. It might not go 5.0, but I don't always need to go the hardest in order to have the most fun. So that's my opinion.
Absolutely.
All right. Anyway,
before we jump to the next slide, just one more thing from the chat there. How punishing is not taking GVs with Proving Ground? So I've only got the one unless I summon Gul'dan, which sometimes I do for objectives, like purely just, hey, I need some GVs. I think that it plays again into that rock, paper, scissors, right? So how punishing is it with Battlegrounds? None at all if you are always going second. So if I don't have any GVs and I'm taking a battle regiment to go first, now I am setting it up for my opponent to get me with Proving Grounds.
Right.
Whereas since I'm 9 drops, probably going second, love going second because it gives me a chance to double turn with Terrorgeist, which is great. I get to pick the thing. So if it's one where I know I'm going to be moving my Terrorgeist up to, first turn I'll be like, that's Proving Ground, just to get rid of it. And then maybe later on I'll keep one back for my ghouls, but it becomes more about burning the right things with Proving Ground as opposed to using it as a way to get your opponent. But then you have to have it's okay to go second mentality.
Right.
I think that all of this stuff is just factors and nothing is bad in it. It's just something that you need to accept based on your strategy. Are you going for turn 1? Well, then you're going to get Proving Ground, so you better bring some veterans.
Yeah.
Darktron,
I think that the 3 gate breakers and a Kron Spine is until the Kron Spine gets an adjustment, you can put that Kron Spine in any list, and it's just going to be great. I want to play that list so I can suplex somebody, hold them down, and have them all use the gate breakers like one attack, 46 mortal wound thing. Ridiculous.
I want to see people suplex the Kron Spine away so their other stuff can get free of that no retreat thing.
What?
That's
brilliant.
Thank you, sons of Behemoth.
Yeah, no one ever said that ever.
Right?
And then, Ian, there are people that said I might have been a SOB. Then no one said it, but there might have been some feelings. We'll talk about it. I promise we'll get there.
We'll get there.
All right, so
What's
anyway, next. Gotta move it.
State of Techless.
State of
Magic.
So this is a reminder before the new book, right?
Correct.
The biggest brain. Best thoughts.
So, State of Magic, and of course, this is pre the Purple Sun change, but again, I don't think that's messes much with the numbers here.
No.
Average list endless spells was like half. So half your opponents had an endless spell, and that really wasn't the case. It was more like a quarter of them had 2. There was not a lot of magic in this tournament whatsoever, which is kind of great. Average spell casts per list was 2.6. So, you'd see a lot of like a bunch of people taking Arcane Tome in order to have that extra cast, or maybe they're bringing in the one little wizard to be able to have it dispel. Do you need it? If the average casts are 2.6, and that is, considering that there are things like Tzeentch out there, there were one Tzeentch list?
I think there were 2.
2, yeah. 2 Tzeentch lists, Death ones.
It was basically 2 of everything.
Basically 2 of everything.
There was basically 2 of everything with some extra War Clans, because War Clans is secretly just 3 armies, and then I think there were 6 Stormcast.
7.
6 or 7. There was a lot of Stormcast, and then 2 of everything.
Yep.
So the spread was as good as you can get. Dropping the fact that we didn't have Ossiarchs or
Hidden Knights. But with Tzeentch in there, with Lumineth in there, and with Death Factions, which are pretty high casty, high magic.
Right.
The fact that that's 2.6, that means that there's a lot of them out there. No magic. They don't care. Doing just fine. I'll tell you right now, that Blades of Corn list
gave us both a run for the money.
Yeah, did super well. Obviously didn't care about magic. Average unbinds per list.
He loves magic, actually.
He does.
He gobbles it up.
Loves it. The average unbinds per list, 2.54. So that means that, the average unbinds was almost equal to the average cast, meaning that you had a good, even game in magic,
right?
Data-wise, across the board, which is super, super cool. what is it? 7. 7 was the highest casts in a list for each of them. Either 7 unbinds or 7 casts. And I think that was, I want to say it was a Lumineth list.
It had to
maybe?
be one of the Lumineth lists. Because I think they were both Fox lists, weren't they?
Yeah, and the Tzeentch list wasn't running like tons of little caster guys. But it brings the question, how much magic do you need? Like,
if you're playing an unbalanced meta,
mm-hmm.
I think that all of a sudden that question is a lot more relevant.
Mm-hmm.
But in this utopia that we got to play in, where there was literally almost the same number of all factions, it does actually start feeling more balanced. Like, you do have Khorne players showing up and actually like doing a little bit of counter to some of those magic armies. You do have people that are just, they've got so many wounds, they don't care if you have, tiddlywinks shooting damages from the foxes.
Yeah.
So it's not necessary when you have enough representation. If you're in somewhere where it seems like in England it's all just thunder lizards and the worst stuff ever all the time, and maybe all of a sudden having some counter spelling is necessity because every single list you fight is the worst kind of magic casting.
Right.
And if you live in that dark and dreary world, I'm sorry.
England.
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 Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I don't think it's necessary if you have a big enough like balance, but I do think that magic is powerful, and having a clutch unbind or two. If you have an auto unbind, I just slot that in almost every list, and you've heard people talk about that. If you have access to an auto unbind, put that in your pocket.
Right, and for certain. But like, as far as how many wizards do I take? Do I take in ally in that Cities of Sigmar little battle wizard who's cheap just to have a wizard? I don't think you need to. I think if you play enough games that you kind of know the big spells, right? You know about what's the one that's really not fun? Eclipse of the Total Eclipse of the Fun.
Total Eclipse of the Fun.
Total Eclipse of the Fun. If you know that that's there, if you know that this is there, and you've got your Heroic Dispel, and then maybe 1, maybe 2. That's 3. Just pick the 3 important spells, and who knows? Maybe they fail to cast it. I fail to cast all the time.
If you're Derek, you cast on 11s constantly.
Yeah, well,
I'm having.
Everybody
hates Total Eclipse.
Everyone hates Total Eclipse.
Even Seraphon, who are like drowning in command points, do not want to play against Total Eclipse.
Not one bit. But for list building, because like I remember back in like fantasy days, if you didn't have 2 wizards in your list, you're done. You're going to get nuked. I don't think that's the case right now, which I think is great. I think it's fantastic.
Agreed. Let's keep it going.
Yeah.
Body count.
Body count. So
this is my favorite count in every game, is how many bodies can I fit on the ground.
Absolutely. So average wounds per army, 108. I think that's something like 20 up from last year.
Right.
Which is great. Super
it was
cool.
all expensive god monsters.
Exactly. Yep.
It was back when Tzeentch Archaon was a plague and Marathi. So they're paying tons of points for very few wounds.
Absolutely.
And you don't see that as much.
Yeah, 108. And to your earlier point, having that 108 wounds in there mitigates shooting, especially with rally or like Baseman rally or some of like the crazy rallies. That really helps take down some of those meta things. Same thing, magic with mortal wounds. You do D6 mortal wounds into my unit of 40 guys.
Right.
Whatever. Don't care. So I think that's good. That's healthy for it. Highest wound count list was 178. I want to say that was a bone splitter.
We had a pigs list. Pigs and some stabbas and the big stabbas.
Yeah, those so much. But like 178, like that. I play Terror Guys. 178 is a lot of wounds to chew through.
It's true.
That is that's a lot.
Especially when one combat phase a turn or a game, they can be at a 4-up save. And if they time it right, that's when you're trying to get all your damage in, and it's brutal.
Yep. Yeah. Or again, like the Soulblight opponent I was up against, that was the like 150-ish range, I think, on wounds, and those can come back with healing. Your Beast of Chaos opponent, that was a bunch of wounds up there. Like there were some beefy lists in there. Let's see, there were 3 lists there with over 130. 8 lists. 8 lists with over 130 wounds.
Beef lords.
Lowest wound count was 63. I think it was a Fox list.
Yeah, I think it had to be the Fox list.
Yeah. Yep. and there were only 10 lists with less than 90 wins, which again, like I think around 80 was the average last year. So
yeah, so you're really like that 108 average is really, it wasn't like an aberration.
Right, like it's being skewed.
Yeah, there's not like one guy
guys.
up or one guy down that's like pulling things apart. Like the mean and the median are very, very similar.
Yep. And to your earlier statement though, didn't seem to be a correlation between wounds and your end placement. There were people with super high wounds up in the top 5,
right,
and then fill in the bottom as well. Like it comes down to, can you play this game, which is a good thing to hear, right?
Yes.
Like that's awesome, super super cool. What about the monsters? Yeah, so average monsters per list now is 1.8, and obviously huge change from last season,
right? But still a lot. And I think that's driven because now that you hear people talking about it, and I think that my experience reflects that, the fact that you don't have what was the battalion that prevented monsters' actions?
Bounty Hunters. Sorry, no.
That's what
Hunters in the Heartland.
Hunters in the Heartland.
There we go.
So Hunters, without Hunters in the mix, monster value has gone up as its score value has gone down, and so like Roar is now it's my least favorite because my Roars are always 1s and 2s.
Oh, yes.
And it's so good.
But there's so many less Roars out there now. So sometimes you get Defeating Frenzy, which feels great. It's wonderful. I do personally think that monsters became more valuable in this edition once you just make your game plan and know, all right, this is how I deal with Proving Grounds. This is how I ignore the battle tactics that require Galatian veterans.
Right.
And then from that point, have fun with your monsters. Go for it.
Absolutely.
Maximum monsters in a list was 7. That had to have been Beastman. Maybe it was the Beastman. Actually, no, it was the Blades of Corn guy. Was it Bloodthirster, Scarbrand, Sphinx, Cockatrice.
Right. Was there 2 Cockatrices? I thought there was just one.
Maybe there was just one. It
was either him.
David Prince.
Oh yeah.
There we go. 7. Yeah, tons of them. Minimum was 0. Duh. And again, no correlation. So it's not like taking monsters auto win, taking monsters bad. Nothing matters. Which is great.
There we go. Sorry, my mouse is messing up. I'm so good at live streaming.
Excellent.
Scoring. So this is an important part. We've had a lot of discussions between Derek, Shannon, and I about like what's the perfect scoring for a tournament. And this was a pretty. At first, I didn't like it because it produces high numbers. But then when I step back and say, does it matter how big the number is? If the final scores are 100 billion, does that really matter? That's just like you could just move decimal places up. So,
I like to refer to that as the Yu-Gi-Oh effect. It makes it really cool when everything's got like 5,000 as opposed to 5.
Yep,
for sure. But yeah, I agree with you. Like, there's no difference here between what they always do and what they were doing now, except that it's more transparent, I think. Like if you're not into the way that all of these tournaments work, you maybe looked before and like last year at Flying Monkey Con, I went 2-2-1. But I had one game where I got 76 battle points. Just wrecking somebody on that one where you're like, if you hold the objective early, and then you got 8 points at the end, and there were 8 of them. Like turn 1, I just spread it over the field, got everything. So if you looked at it by points, it was like the top 10 had like, maybe 50 to 70 points. And then there's this guy down here in 11th with like 140, and then it goes back down to like 40 points, etc. And it didn't make sense if you're just looking at it. But when you put in for the point value, a major victory is worth 500 or a minor victory is worth 350, and essentially just has a way of assigning a number to prioritizing wins and then battle points.
Right.
That's all it is.
And then giving those points for battle tactics that you get, battle tactics that you deny, grand strategies that you get, grand strategies that you deny. Mm-hmm. It was a great little differentiator. Mm-hmm. And you'll see at the top that I think that the difference between the top like 4 1s was like 10 points. Yeah. Maybe less.
Yeah, those battle tactics
we've got the numbers here in a second, but I would have done better if I had just gotten denied one more grand strat.
Yep.
Or gotten one more grand strat.
Absolutely.
it was very, very, very close. So Carlos here says that what he's learned here is that like monsters don't matter, battalions don't matter, and wounds don't matter.
Pay attention.
Yeah.
Nothing matters.
Nothing matters. What matters is that what you do with it, right?
Yeah.
It's not like you have to take those things in order to win.
Mm-hmm.
It's if you take them, have a plan.
Yeah.
And if you have that, and then do the plan as long as that plan makes sense.
Absolutely. The one thing he was scoring that we talked about, like the loss, major loss, minor loss, all that kind of stuff, whatever. That's fine. The thing that's in here that is something that kind of like a TO can tweak. Do you agree that a grand strategy is equal to roughly 1.5 battle tactics? That is where you could get in as a TO and be like, all right, should it be 3 points for each battle tactic and then 5 for your grand strat, or should it be 6 for the grand strat? Because it should be worth, twice as much battle tactic. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? Because that's the only place where it's a little fidgety.
I like it, at least in theory, right? Putting the quality of grand strategies, grand strats and battle tactics aside, like some are easier, some are harder. It's not fair for some armies. Let's just live in this utopia where things are generally balanced. Then I think it's fair to say that you get as many points for getting half of your games, essentially half the game's battle tactics, like 2.5, for doing the thing the entire game that you said you do, and so you get your grand strat. I kind of like it. I don't know if that makes sense to you, the way I put that, but
sure.
Like on its face, it felt good, and I feel like it created such a tight like spread of scores that I didn't think that people were over compensated for doing one thing or another. I think it was really just a great way of providing a little bit of space in between the different levels so that people aren't having to rock, paper, scissors to see who wins the tournament.
The one thing it does do is it means you need to finish your game. Because if you only get to round 2, round 3, and you miss out on, let's see, that's a possibility of 3. You get through round 3. You can miss out on 6, another 2 for denying theirs, which is going to be 8. I guess your grand strategy, you kind of count if your game is or whatever. But still, 8 points divides like most of that winner's circle that we're going to look at later on,
right? From
another. So it's real important to get through your games if your scoring is this style, for sure.
And the one thing that some people were doing at the tournament that is often maligned was bring a chess clock. And they were playing with ITC rules, and so you were obliged to play with the chess clock if your opponent asked you to. And I've never played with a chess clock, ever. And I'll talk about it. My final game was with a chess clock, and it wasn't as bad as I thought. And it really did feel like what it did was make sure that the other guy has their fair shake during the tournament. And at the end, as long as there wasn't some wild imbalance, they're like, just take my time. Like, what mattered was that somebody wasn't playing so slow. Somebody wasn't playing 30 pinks.
Yeah, we will definitely talk about chess clocks on round 5, because I also would like to. I did not play with one and kind of wish that I did. So
it was stressful, Carlos. Like when it first came out, I was like, like all frazzled. Oh my gosh, I'm on the clock now. But then you step back and you realize, like, theoretically, nothing should. Like, if I'm finishing my games in the tournament, nothing should really matter. If I'm only getting to the top of 3 in my games, and it's I'm playing most of the time, I'm the baddie, right? And it's only fair that the other person, if they're playing an army that wins in the end game, that they get to the end game. Otherwise, they don't get to win. Like, it's like I don't score points in the beginning. I score the points in round 4 and 5 and deny you, and then I catch up, and that's how I win. If you're playing with somebody that doesn't get there for whatever reason, maybe they just haven't practiced a lot, maybe this is their first tournament, for whatever reason, and somebody goes to really compete, I think it's fair to them to be able to have the chance to play all their turns.
Yeah.
So anyway, like, I agree, it's stressful, and if you don't want to play with a chess clock, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, like I said, it was the first time I've ever played with one.
Yep. And I have only, like, this, I think this is the only time now in X number of tournaments I've been to now where I had a round where I maybe wanted one. Other than that, like, a lot of my games were tight. Like we came down to the last 10 minutes, but we got through all 5 turns and we played some close games. It's not a like you always need to have a chess clock sort of a thing, but there are some things to watch for. Like if they've got 50,000 models and maybe they don't have movement trays.
Ooh, yeah, no movement trays with a bunch of models.
Yeah.
Like I don't know.
If they have pink horrors, that alone you
If
should
they
probably
have 30
just be
pink horrors, 10, I'll give it to you.
Okay, maybe
30, you're the baddie.
Yeah, like there are definitely some things where it's not even like a malign intent sort of a thing. It's just a hey, that looks like you're going to eat a lot of time, and I just want to make sure that I can move my 3 models 5 times this game. That's all I want. But yeah, but scoring, it was an interesting system. I liked it.
Yep.
In the end, I liked it because in the end, you can look at it, and the guy on top's got the biggest score, and the guy on the bottom's got the smallest.
And I would absolutely I think the highest praise I can give it is I'd use this in a tournament.
Sure. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So tiny text.
Tiniest of text.
But this is the where things landed. Jeremy Lefebvre. I played him last year and got my booty blasted. A super nice guy.
Oh, like super nice guy.
Just really low key.
And again, playing one of those not meta.
Yeah, not meta armies. Playing Phoenicium, and that Phoenicium list wasn't just like spam one good unit.
Mm-hmm.
He's been playing it. This is a variation on what he played last year. So this guy just knows the army. So it's kind of like your strategy, which you just play the army you play, and you learn how to squeeze every last drop out of it.
He even had one of the like Warcry bands, and not even like a meta silly Warcry band. He just
it's the new one. It's
a
new Witch Hunter.
Yeah, the Witch Hunter with his gang of the guys with torches and pitchforks and the dog.
They've got a 5-up ward. They get an extra damage against wizards, and while there's not a wizard in every list, when there is, they're usually high value. So if you can get those guys in on them, they will surprise your opponent. And surprising your opponent with stuff that they haven't seen is a strategy we call Bad Rat List. We'll see.
Oh, well, yes, there is that. Second, Dalton Kane, Zinch. It was the same list that won
Nova?
Nova. Yeah, Nova.
And
so
the same guy that recently did a Zinch podcast with Coach.
Yep.
So and Dalton's obviously a good player. You can't just pick up a list that, like Zinch and like rock with it. You have to know what you're doing.
It's finessey.
That isn't to say that he took the list and won. That's to say that he took a list. Here's something similar. They both did well because they're both good players.
Right. Yep. But it was,
and both those players went 5-0. So we had 2 5-0s in the tournament.
Right. Yep. And that one was double bird crown spine, right?
Yeah. That's double bird crown spine and some junk in the front.
Yep. Crier, Fox list, Lumineth.
We've played it.
Runaway.
You might have played it. Yeah, they just run away. There's 3 foxes. One of them was Severeth.
Yep.
He went 4-1. You had I did not get to see this Sons of Behemoth list, this Taker tribe.
Yeah, I'd have to look it back up again.
Taker tribe is fat bodies sit on objectives, right? You count as the most possible points on an objective.
Absolutely. Yep.
So that's no doubt what the plan was. Then some guy named Thomas playing Skaven Tide. I don't know who that guy is.
It's like Eshin, Scryer-y sort of. We'll cover it later.
So anyway, I went 4-1 in the tournament and ended up in 5th place. Because of how the pairings ended up. I ended up getting best in chaos, and then you got best painted.
I did get best painted.
Your trophy was so good. I was so jealous.
Man, it's heavy. You could easily kill somebody with that thing. It's like a sharpened point of crystal. That's like a 10-pound weight.
You could crush a Teclis model with that thing.
Oh man, I would buy a Teclis model just to crush it with that trophy. I'm not gonna lie. 6th place we got Bo with Gitz. Yeah, it was Trogs. He had like a little madcap shaman or whatever in there. But everybody else was Trogs. It was Trogs.
It's the one thing that seems to do well that doesn't have Kragnos in it when it's Gitz.
Yep. Which again, still good player. Like still a good person at the helm. Taking a beefy body list of Trogs. So doing great there.
James Tapia with Sylvaneth.
He had the weird, it was like Alariel and nothing.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot in the list.
Yeah.
When we were talking, when we took a car ride up or over to Wichita, when we went over James's list, we're like, we know he's a good player. I don't understand what this list does. Clearly it does something because he went 4-1. I just never got to see him play it, so I don't know what happens. I guess he just yeets Alariel up and then...
She dies and comes back later. I don't know, but he did great with it.
He did great with him.
Again.
Good on him.
Daniel Pitt, So the Grave Lords, he was my round 5 opponent. So we'll talk about his
lots of bodies,
later.
lots of bodies.
Oh my goodness, so many bodies.
And then Steve, I can't pronounce his last name.
Saychek? Paycheck?
Saychek, Paycheck, something like that. He's the one of the two. He's the guy over at Partners at War. So that's a YouTube channel. They haven't been particularly active recently, but their battle reports are great. At least on stream, they're incredibly nice people, and when you actually meet them, they're at least as nice as they are on their channel. It was fantastic. And I got to play both him and her. Spoiler alert. It was amazing.
Very cool.
But
then if you look at the points column there, like if you squint real hard, lean right next to your screen there, you can see how tight some of these points were. So our 2 5-0s in the top, real tight in the points.
There's 3 points between me and 4th place.
Yeah, and so that is a battle tactic. That's denying 3 battle tactics. That's denying a grand stretch. Like, everything matters at the end of the day on it, which I kind of like. Yeah, it feels good. It's good. It's nice.
Yeah. So we can move on here. So we wanted to add Derek's list. At least I did. Yeah. Because I wasn't able to get him on, and it was a good list. Yeah. So I'm going to go through it for him. I can't pretend to be as charismatic or as handsome.
Sure you can. Just side comb over the hair.
Have you seen?
Offer rum and Coke.
Shake everyone's hand.
Shake everyone's hand.
Ask their name. Memorize it. Actually remember later.
Oh, yeah, that's the hard part.
Oh, my God.
I can shake everyone's hand, but, like, Derek can come up and be like, I met you like 8 years ago, whatever. How's the wife? How's the kids? What? Man, it's a skill.
It's a skill.
It's a freaking skill,
and he's got it. So he played Bloodtooth's Iron Jaws. His grand strategy was WA, which is, I believe, have more stuff on their side than you at the end.
Yeah,
or maybe it was just 2 units. Derek's in the chat. Maybe still. He can correct us if he remembers. He had a Mega Boss on Rock Russia with the Riptooth Fist, so he's got the 3-up save. His command trait's Touched by the Wall, and he has the Arcane Tome and Fast One. So what's really spicy about that list is that Touched by the Wall means that in the hero phase, the user can deal D3 mortal wounds to somebody nearby. I can't remember what the range is. And any wounds that get through past ward saves that are actually dealt, he gets to add those to his casting roll. What's important there is that's not friendly models. He can do that to enemy models, and with the speed, there's been plenty of cases where in round 2, he'll fast stun, Mighty Destroyers up, get next to one of your heroes or something important, and just plink D3 mortal wounds, and then be a better caster because of it. It was a really techie thing that I haven't seen. I'm not saying that I play the most Warhammer, but when he pulled it on me, I was like, is this legal?
Yeah,
cool. Is this what Warhammer's come to? Orcs casting spells at the cost of my own blood? It was really good, and he's an excellent player with that Maw Crusher, and he's booty blasted me more than one time with that Maw Crusher.
Oh yeah, he's scary with those things.
Then he's got a second Mega Boss, nothing special, just the 3-up save, and then 2 War Channas, Get and Beat, Fix and Beat, 4 min-sized units of Gorgrunas, and then a 1 min-sized Spider Rider at a Gloomspite gets us a screen, or just like it to area deny in the backfield.
I like how second Mega Boss with like damage 4 or whatever is nothing special.
Get out of my house. Get all the way off my back. I mean, it's nothing special in the terms of ultra fast mega damage.
I suppose it's still a lot of damage.
Yeah, so he came in 30 points under. Go ahead.
And you can see like he rock paper scissors. He went battle regiment.
He went all battle regiment.
That's his.
No Galatian veterans.
That's it.
No Galatian veterans.
No GV. Battle regiment. So ignored in the bounty hunters.
Right. And Derek went 3-2. He did get to play Dalton with the Zinch list, and I think he told me he was in a winning position when the Sun sucked a critical Maw Crusher in on a roll of 1, and that lost him in the game.
Yeah.
Now that isn't to say that Dalton couldn't have turned it around, but we've all been in that. I'm assuming most of us have been in the situation where something gets sucked into the Sun, and then you just lose the game. And this was one of those cases. So it just goes to show that just because he went 3-2, that's a great showing, in my opinion. He could easily have gone 4-1 or better.
But also, like, again, to do this whole the balancey sort of thing, some of the lists in like the bottom 10 had Suns in them. Right. Like the Sun's not an instant.
And then thank you, Darktron, for that 6-inch for call out for Touched by the Wall. So it's 6 inches, so he doesn't need to be in combat, so he can just get near you and then suck your blood out and cast with it.
Yeah. And then let's see, is that a
2-drop?
How many?
118.
118 wounds. So again, above the average, but still showing that average is nice and high.
Right.
For sure. Super cool.
Super cool list, and he's a great player with it. So, Shannon?
Yeah, so I was running, obviously, Noble Britannia. Flesh Eater Courts, doing Gristlegore so that I, again, could try to dodge the Scalation Veteran stuff, play the off-meta, if you will. No Place for the Weak. Man, I'm reconsidering that now. I think Take What's Theirs is superior to No Place for the Weak, with as many bodies as are showing up.
I agree.
So that is a change that I have made post-tournament, for sure. Triumphs Inspired. I was running 1995, so I think I got my Triumph once. That was about it. General, running the Abhorrent Ghoul King on a Terrorgeist. He's got the basic stuff. Savage Strike always strikes first on a charge from Gristlegore. He's got the Grim Garland for that aura of -2 bravery to help make all the screams a little bit better. He took Flaming Weapon from the spell lore. My Arc Regent, taking the Arcane Tome, tried to give me one more spell cast, try to bring out the cogs, help with my magic, since my magic is real key to making my list competitive.
Right.
Without it, I'm like just trying to roll some sixes, and that's it.
To be fair, you're still just trying to roll sixes, but your spells make it easier.
I just get more dice.
Yeah, exactly.
That's really all it is.
Yeah.
I get more dice. He's got the Spectral Host, try to get my Terrorgeist downfield real fast. I got a little Foot Ghoul King to summon in those ghouls for, if I need some Galatian Veterans. And then if Bounty Hunters come in and kill him, I paid 0 points for him. I don't care. It's fine. He took Blood Feast, which is a silly spell that I never cast all tournament. Took a Vargulf Courtier. He's taken that required Gristlegore Artifact of the Mawshard. I think I used it twice out of 5 games, so again, didn't really matter. 2 Crypt Courtiers, one of them, of course, being Andre Le Petit, everyone's favorite character. And then my battle line was 10 ghouls, and then a Terrorgeist and Terrorgeist. And then I took in 3 bats from Soulblight just for the lulz, and then had those cogs and the Horrorghast in there.
Is this basically the list that you took to Mini Wargaming?
Is the exact list with
Take
What's Theirs. Exactly. That is it. Yeah, it's the exact same thing.
If you want to see this list do its awful work, you can. You need to be a Vault member at Mini Wargaming, which sounds like we are somehow. I'm not trying to sell it.
Or you sign up for the 7-day free trial. And then you can decide if you want to be a Vault member.
It's all true.
Yep.
I'll admit that I'm a Vault member because I just like those guys and I want to support what they do.
Absolutely.
They might not be the most competitive players ever, but sometimes I just want to have people like on my screen playing fun Warhammer.
Yep. While you're painting, it's nothing better. It's all great.
All right.
But yeah, so I took 2 Warlords. Again, I don't care about Expert Conquerors. I don't care about Bounty Hunters. There's very little in my army that I would even care about putting as a Bounty Hunter. Like, I've heard some people say, you could do your Terrorgeist.
I've said that.
Yeah, but
I was wrong.
I barely hit anything anyway, and all of my rolls are either D3s or D6. So would I want D3 plus 1 and D6 plus 1? No, not at all. And ghouls, obviously, I'm not going to make them. And then for Expert Conquerors, ghouls are awful. They are just the worst. I do not need them to be out there as a target to be hit by Bounty Hunters. So I'm all about go kill their stuff instead of try to outbody their stuff, because it's just not going to happen with Bounty Hunters.
Yeah, so my only comment there on the Bounty Hunter thing, because I'm looking at this list, like, just sitting and looking at it, for maybe the first time ever, despite how many times I played against it.
Right.
You have, you could put those Terrorgeists in Bounty Hunters, and it wouldn't cost you any drops, and it wouldn't cost you any battalions, would
it? Yes, it would. It would cost me a Warlord, because you got to have 2...
Only one.
Only one unit?
Only one unit.
Oh. So, yeah. Okay, then yeah, I totally could. It would do nothing.
Almost nothing.
You're right.
But it would be a 1 drop in the nothing bucket.
Or I could put those fell bats in and make those damage to
No one will see those bats flapping their way. Those 2 damage bats hitting on 4s, wounding on 4s, 0 rend, 2 damage.
Yeah. I was obviously on the low end with 90 wounds, but I summon in like another 40 wounds.
Yeah,
so really, I'm like
that's a lie. That's a big lie.
Exactly. And then 10 drops. So well above the average. But again, I got to choose to go first once. So I wasn't not the high end.
Yeah, Carlos caught it too. You chose not to bring a free Bounty Hunters.
Correct.
We're just human, man.
No. That's how much I hate Bounty Hunters. I won't even take it when it's free.
You've got principles. You got morals.
Got morals.
Yeah, I'll eat a man to death, but I won't take Bounty Hunters.
The line's got to be somewhere.
It's somewhere between those 2 things.
Somewhere between those 2 things.
All right, let's go on to my list. So I played Skaven. Skaven's so close to my heart. I did no place for the weak because I agree that killing weak stuff is the best way to win games.
But did you find that to be true at this one with how many bodies of weak stuff there was?
Oh my god, all the time, because this list is just a murder machine.
Well, okay, that's fair.
That's murder machine. And people see it and they don't understand. It's funny when Rob from Honest Wargamer did the review of Flying Monkey, he did see the list. He doesn't like Skaven, so he didn't go into any detail, but he knew exactly what it did. He was like, oh, all this stuff just deploys off board, and then it comes down and just blasts the loving god out of things. Neat list, and then he moved on. And so if you've seen it, like if you've seen enough of this stuff, you kind of understand what's happening and you kind of prepare for it. Most of these people haven't seen what this list does. So I've got a Vermin Lord Deceiver as the general. He's got the Shadow Master. So two things right there. The Vermin Lord Deceiver has a War Scroll ability that they cannot be targeted with ranged attacks outside of 9 inches. The Shadow Master is a command trait that kind of doubles down on that, and so people might skip it, and that's if you are within 1 inch of a terrain, you can't be targeted with ranged attacks at all. And so you're like, oh, well, I've kind of already got it. Well, you know what Shadow Master does? Shadow Master means that you can charge into 30 bow snakes, 15 bow snakes, and as long as you've got 1 foot next to one tiny rock, they can't unleash heck on you. And then you can charge the rest of your stuff in because now they're close to something. So there's a little bit of tech there that I was using to try and shut down getting booty blasted off the board by the range stuff. There's more. The Shadow Magnet Trinket, you see this a lot on the Vermin Lord Deceivers. Once per game in the combat phase, any combat phase, I can pop that thing at the start, and then I get strike first until the beginning of my next hero phase. So the number of turns that can last is between 3 and the one that I'm in based on turn order. And that's really important for, like, if I get charged and I didn't expect it, or I want to do some tricky maneuvers because rat heroes can retreat out of combat when they activate rather than fight. I can charge in, stomp, do the arcane bolt, and then just yeet out and go grab an objective. And so, like, there's a lot, like, I could just go do 6 mortal wounds that they can't really deal with. Or can't respond to, and that's not going to win a game, but it's going to get in their head about it. Spell Lore Flaming Weapon, it's a no-brainer, but it was rarely what I was casting. Then I took the Arch Warlock for the 3-up save, specifically for survivability. There's the cheaper version that has a 4-up or a 5-up. You just can't beat that 3-up. I think it's one of the few 3-ups in the army, if not the only 3-up. And then I took more War Power, which I tried to cast twice, I think, in the entire tournament, and didn't get off a single time. It's no longer required, let's be honest. It used to be more War Power or go home. The changes to the way a lot of this scryer stuff works, you just don't need it anymore. Great. But I took it anyway because the other options are garbage.
Sure.
And then Slink Skittershank, who's the most recent Skaven Underband Warband hero.
Frickin' strongest character in the game. Hands down.
I don't know if I agree with Shannon, but I do agree that on a big roll, he's just going to lift stuff.
Okay, how about point for point, strongest character in the game?
No.
Who is better?
I don't know, but I cannot commit to saying
he's what, 100 points?
The warband that you have to take him with is 225.
How many points is he? Because he lifted a Terragant.
I can't. There's no way to know. He's 225.
Oh,
it's all or nothing.
He's probably like 45 points.
He's probably just 10 points, and then it's.
So good. He's so good.
Anyway, so he like him and his warband. They have mechanics to fight first, and they deep strike within 6 inches of wherever they come in. It's a great name, Ian. I agree. The Vermin Lord Deceiver also, I didn't mention it, but his War Scroll spell is the 6-inch teleport, so you can teleport any hero in the Skaven army near that character, including himself, the big monster, outside of 6 of their whole army, anywhere you want. And it's super powerful. So you've got 2 units that come in outside of 6. Slink Skittershank, between his ranged and his melee, if you just get them all in, all on the same target, you fight first with both of them. You're talking about 21 attacks. Each 6 on any of those attacks is D3 mortal wounds. So you come in, you take out your model ninja like shurikens and stuff, and you just nothing personal, kid. Those guys like nice, good work for an old man style anime stuff. It's ridiculous.
It's so rough.
I lifted Be'lakor in my second game with just him. Like it's just a bajillion damage.
Just
it's
the best character.
He had plenty of turns where he did 0 damage. But you don't think about those. You think about the times when he shows up and he lifts your Terror guys.
Yeah.
He's a Ghoul King on Terror
I think about that a lot.
So anyway, enough on that. He's good.
Yeah.
Then I have 2 sets of reinforced gunner runners. That's 200 points each, I think. 210 points each total. And they are 10 models after being reinforced. They can deep strike. They come in wholly within 6 inches of terrain, 9 inches outside of bad guys. And then the Storm Fiends. We're all familiar with Storm Fiends. If you don't know what a Storm Fiend does, just don't. They just blast. They blast. Some of the best blasting per point. It feels like
right behind Slink Skittershank.
Right behind that dirty rat. Then outside of that, I've got some Night Runners and a Warp Grinder. Night Runners are just 90 point like garbage. They have a 2d6 pregame move, and then the Skittershank's Claw Pack are the people that come with Slink. Everything is in a battle regiment except Night Runners. What's important here is that my deployment is the Vermin Lord Deceiver and the Arch Warlock, and everything else is off the board. The Warp Grinder takes the Storm Fiends into like Rat Heck, where they pop out of their awful rat hole at some point, and then and the Night Runners. So I've got 3 units on the board, 2 of which are heroes backboarded, and then the Night Runners just run up to kind of prevent you from getting straight into me.
Yeah.
Aside from that, Slink is off the board, the Gutter Runners are off the board, the Storm Fiends are off the board, and the Warp Grinder is off the board. And you're like, Thomas, that's only 97 wounds of garbage. Yeah, but man, it does 1,000 damage, and you have no way to counterplay it. And I built this list so that I could go in and say I've at least tried my hardest with like the meanest list. Because normally I don't like the mean lists. Normally I don't like the MP stuff. And there's nothing wrong with liking it. There's nothing wrong with taking it. It's just not the game that I want to have with my opponent. Because I'll talk about it. It saps your will to live. I had to talk somebody into keeping the game going. Just stay in the game. I promise. It's not all like you have a chance here. The double turn with this list is brutal because I just come in outside of 12 and I just start lifting everything. Oh, the Gutter Runners are dealing mortal wounds on 6s. The Vermin Lord deals mortal wounds on 6s. It's mortals and anyway.
It's rough. It's rough. One of your test games against me, you let me go first.
Oh,
you were like, go first. It's fine. Like, you had the choice.
I did not say it like that.
Okay, true, but you felt it because you were like, I know what this list does. Go first. I don't care.
My first game was with Derek, and he took that pig list, a version of the pig list versus me, and I think it was actually all pigs in one Maw Crusher, and I let him go first, and he had me backed into like a 9-inch bubble in the corner of the board. My whole army put like that whole pop out anywhere I wanted was like a few Gutter Runners out to the side, and the Storm Fiends literally backed up against the board, and I lifted all the first line of pigs. I got the double turn. I moved up. I lifted the next line of pigs. He had almost nothing left, and then the game was over.
Yeah.
Like, it's so much damage.
So much damage.
The hard part about the list isn't like, shooting stuff. It's picking targets. If you can't pick a target with the list, you're going to lose all the time because you won't have killed the right thing. And my advantage there is I play too many armies, and so I've got a high-level idea what I should be targeting most of the time.
Absolutely. You're talking about this list like don't take this list, it's not fun to play against. While Chad is sitting there being like, oh yes. This calls to me. This is what I want to do.
There's a reason why it went 4-1, and I think it had a lot of potential to go 5-0. And it was I think it was my fault that I lost the game that I did. Now, would I have won the subsequent games? Like, would I have beat Jeremy or Dalton? I don't know. The list requires, some level of good rolls. It needs a double turn at some point, and we'll talk about it. Speaking of which, let's talk about it.
Let's talk about games.
Game 1.
Perfect.
At long last, We're talking about the games. This is me versus Steve from Partners of War. I cannot stress enough how nice he was. Something to note about some of the rulings on how we played things at this tournament. If you couldn't end within a half of an inch of a model, that includes vertically, you couldn't complete a charge.
Because that's what the rulebook says.
Because that's what the rulebook says. Oh, that's not fun, you say, Thomas. You might be right. The problem is that the previous year, and I think I talked about it on a stream.
Yeah.
We had a perfectly nice guy who had like these towers, and he had a dread saurian. You've seen the base. It's literally like bigger than my head. And he flew the dread saurian and then had it like walk along the pillar. And so by doing that, he was able to make the dread saurian space less than a millimeter or something like that. And then he charged through like 3-inch, like I left teeny tiny gaps in my clan rats, lost me the game.
Yeah.
So where's the middle ground? The middle ground, at least for this particular time through, was to just play it as written. And that means that if your base is bigger than the thing you're standing on, you are effectively unchargeable. The other thing is you can surround that guy and then they can't get off, like you've taken them out of the game the other way.
They're stuck up there.
There's counterplay there.
That putting a big monster up on top of a thing where it's small in the base size. Sweaty tactic for sure. But
I do it in this game.
But completely legitimate. It's by the rules.
Steve and I were on the same page that it creates a really weird game state. But he was very understanding when I said, okay, this is what I understand the ruling to be. When there's any question, just ask the TO. And then play what the TO says. And that's exactly what we did. And we had an excellent game. And all this stuff about unchargeability didn't actually come into the game. I played it, and then it didn't matter.
Yeah, and the TO was very practiced with this question. Like he was ready for it to come up every game. So it was all good.
So Ian, this guy, we can't have nice things for sure. So this list is Marathi and Kronspine. He went 4-1 here. He went 4-1 at Chicago. There's a reason. He's an excellent player. He's a super nice guy, and his list is really good. It has the Hag Queen on Blood Cauldron. It had the Shadow Stalkers, the guys who can just teleport move. I think he had a couple units of Witch Elves and then 2 units of Harpies in the sky. So you can see me down here. Look at this guy. It's just a couple of filthy rats. And then I moved my 2d6 up the board as a way of slowing down the Kronspine and Marathi. He's got some Witch Elves here. You can't see it, but some Witch Elves behind the Cauldron. And then he's got the Shadow Stalkers back here. Both of these guys are turning off my gnaw holes, which is what you want to see, right? I feel personally attacked.
Don't know what he's talking about.
Did he drink your rat gin and tonic? All right, so let's talk about this now. What I've been doing last couple tournaments, Colorado Clan Carnage, and this one, is I brought mason jars with little shot like the little tiny shots of gin, that come tiny prepackaged bottles. I open those up. And I put the green food coloring in there. I put those in the mason jar, and then hand a mason jar with that and the tonic as something that they can drink, and it creates like a fun little warp themed gin and tonic, right?
It's great. I had 3 at Colorado Clan.
right.
It's great.
So it's just gin and tonic, right? But I couldn't get this. I could not push this stuff off on people if I had put money in that mason jar. And the reason I packaged it like that rather than being pre-made is because this is 8 in the morning, and not everyone's pounding gin and tonics at 8 in the morning, myself included. So they can take it and drink it at their own leisure. Maybe at the end of the day, and then if they like mason jars, they've got a mason jar they can throw it away.
Sure.
So anyway, he didn't take it. None of my opponents took it until the very last guy. Maybe my list drove him to this drinking, because he was pretty frazzled about it was a close game, but he was pretty frazzled about how awful it was to play against. But on the other hand, Derek was handing out bourbon and cokes, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So he was handing out bourbon and cokes, and of course people were taking his, but people that were I think somebody was diabetic, and he offered it to them, and they're like, "Oh, I'm diabetic. This is probably pretty bad for me," but they took it anyway. I don't know what this man does. Everyone loves him so much that they rather than disappoint him, they will drink their life away.
on character creation, we all roll 3d6. Some of us bank it in charisma. Some of us bank it elsewhere. Derek just banks it in charisma.
Just banks it in charisma.
He gets all the lay on hands he wants a day.
It's true. Would you drink a warp themed rat like concoction
from a Skaven player?
Oh,
I mean, I did.
You did. You did.
I did.
And you're here.
So many.
How bad could it have been?
Exactly.
Okay. So back to the game. This is deployment. I tried to remember to take as many pictures as we could. I think I took the most, but that's because I was literally yelling all the time. Take a picture.
Yeah, when you were they had the top 5 tables were out in a separate room.
Right.
Yeah, when you moved on to the separate room, my picture taking dropped.
Mine did too because it was the hardest game I had.
Yep.
And by the way, I did bring the air horn button. You can see it over here.
Hype.
I think Steve's wife was the one that engaged with it the most. Maybe my last game was actually like hitting that hype button every time weird stuff happened. So. Anyway, let's see if we can go here. So I didn't remember to take a picture right off the bat. So this is after my first turn. So he had gone. He cleared the screen with the Kronspine and Morathi. You can see my Vermin Lord Deceiver doing that toxic, no chargeable baloney up here. And then he has the 10 Witch Elves here. 10 Witch Elves are still back there. And then I had done a bunch of damage to these guys here. I had bracketed the Kronspine. I had put my 3 wounds on Morathi. You can see some Gutter Runners here, and Skink in the middle. And then my blast, my hero, the Arch Warlock down here, protected since these are impassable. And then just like my junk Warp Grinder, I had nothing to do with them. You'll live your best life there, buddy. So I lost the roll-off. I think it was 2 1s. And it's every roll-off against me, because I make everyone go first. Because that's what I learned. I was like, I need to go first, right? Whenever we were first testing this? No. I go second, and then double you, and then win the game.
Yeah.
So I did not double him and just win the game. And you can see that here. He's sending the Kronspine and Morathi straight into the Stormfiend. Oh no, Thomas, your Stormfiends are gone. Those are supposed to be the most damaging thing ever.
Slink.
LOL. Just Slink and those awful Gutter Runners. And the Vermin Lord Deceiver, they're also all pumping out damage. And so people get pulled into trying to kill those Stormfiends because they do. And a lot of times I'll just put them in the middle of the board where it exposes whatever gets into them. In this case, I couldn't because he was very aggressive. The downside to being aggressive with me is you spread yourself out. So he's brought down, he put the Shadow Stonkers over here. He dropped down some Harpies here. He also put Harpies up here on this objective. And I think that the Witch Elves that were up here got blasted into oblivion. So at this point, I think I put three more wounds on Morathi. My Warp Grinder's still alive, by the way. I've still got some Gutter Runners alive and the full unit over here, and I have not yet bracketed or completely removed the Kronspine. I get the double on Steve, and then goodbye. You know, so, nothing personal, kid. This is Morathi's on 3 wins. I win the turn into this, then we shake hands. So at the bottom of 2, I think we shook hands after it was clear that I was just going to lift her. He had nothing left because all he had at this point were 10 people here. Maybe this is the unit of 10 Witch Elves. He just ran them down. He had 2 Harpies. I killed the Harpies and the 10 ladies with Slink and his friends. So Slink and his friends did all the work there. These Gutter Runners killed the Kronspine, and the game was over. And it was funny because after he won the turn, and after the end of the top of 2, he was like, "You can't lose. Like, let's play it out." And I was like, "Sure, man." And lo and behold, at the bottom of 2, he's like, "Oh, I can't win." Like that's how fast this list will turn it on you. And
so much damage. It's
so much damage, and it's anywhere I want it on the board, and it's fragile. It's so fragile. You've seen it. Like there's nothing left, right? It doesn't look like there's anything left, but my Vermin Lord Deceiver moves 12. He just comes in, stomps stuff on the board. It's just brutal. So that was his one loss, and that was my first win. I was feeling good about it. If Steve does watch, you're a great guy. Thank you for the game. So I mean, would you? Oh yeah. So no updates yet. So I think this is yours.
Yeah, it's mine. And before we jump into it, important thing to talk about: the tournament did do mysterious terrain.
Oh yeah,
everything,
yeah.
everything.
I didn't try and capture any of that. There was
no, but that's what all these little tokens are. You can see it on there. But they went through and made sure that the ones in which you have to be wholly within an inch were chunks of terrain in which models could actually stand on. And then the other things were the ones where you just had to be within an inch. So they used the mysterious terrain rules, but they didn't do it randomly so that they actually came into effect. And I think that's the best way to go about it, for sure. So my game one, I traveled for, 80 hours, 10 hours, 6 hours? I don't know. It was across a lot of flat nothingness.
It was 8 hours? 8 hours.
8 hours to play against another Flesh Eater Courts army against a guy who lives like 35 minutes north of me at home. So that was great. But it was fine. It was fine. Yes, that is.
This is the one Kronspine.
This is the one. About. Yeah, the one not Kronspine. Kronspine is the noodle coming out of the pond stuff there. Yeah. Oh, wonderful. Ooh, so fancy. So fancy. So he was running Blister Skin. We got a chance to see a couple of different grand houses going at it here. Blister Skin is the big hotness right now in the Flesh Eater Courts world. They've got a teleport. They make Flayer's battle line so that you have an actually kind of okay Galatian veteran.
Right.
He's running the Zombie Dragon, which is another thing that's up on the top of lists for Flesh Eater Courts because it's got a beautiful spell that lets you re-roll failed wounds if they're wholly within 18 inches of him. Like, that's great, right? So he's bringing a lot of the real good stuff. He had a couple of units of ghouls here. He had an Arc Regen on foot that was bonded to the Kronspine for more casting. Had the guy on Terrorgeist, the guy on Dragon. He had a little on-foot vampire that at the start of like turn 2, he realized wasn't actually in his list and took off. And then, a bunch of summoning. Much like my list, it doesn't look like there's much on here. I got my Terrorgeist lined up, bats in the front, because, he outdropped me. I think he had a battle regiment in there.
Right.
So I set up to take a charge in the face if he gave it to me, and if he gave it to me, my Terrorgeists are close enough to run up there, and then nom those ghouls, pile in, eat the Arc Regent, turn his thing loose in his backline, so even if he kills a Terrorgeist back there, now he's got to bug out, because the last thing Flesh Eater Courts wants is to be near that Kronspine anyway. We want to hit things, have them be removed from the board, and then keep going forward. Kronspines are awful against Flesh Eater Courts. It looked like it was going to be a proper rough
awful
game.
As in like scary.
Awful as in scary. Yeah, they're not great. And what was our battle plan round 1 again? We got the 3 diagonal. This is the
that's heads on.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So just hold 1, hold 2, hold more. Right. Yeah. Like just basic. I'm not the photographer that Thomas is, so there'll be less photos here. But he ended up taking the first turn because he didn't want me to slam into stuff. He ended up moving his Kronspine up. I had redeployed my bats a little bit closer to hold them at arm's length best I could. And then he summoned in a little bit of kind of stuff coming in around, ooh, fancy, up there to come run down my flank. I ended up trying to move things up where I had my Terrorgeist coming up the side. I ended up charging a unit of ghouls there and just obliterating him because the Terrorgeist. This Terrorgeist went up and engaged the Kronspine to try, to go die for their master and let my other stuff live, right? So we're sitting there being hopeful. Gristlegore has a command ability for fight on death. Mm-hmm. Maybe, he'll not roar me and I'll get to at least fight on death if nothing happens. And then I don't think you can really see them, but back behind this rock, there's a unit of 20 ghouls just being trolls and coming in his back line. You can also see right here the positioning of this Terrorgeist. So something that I did, he wasn't super aware of until his turn. But again, this terrain thing, right? You cannot go base to base with that Terrorgeist on charge with another thing the same base size as that Terrorgeist because of how I'm wedged in that terrain. You're not going to end in within half an inch, and his own Kronspine is blocking him. On that side, he did not pile in later on with that.
Real quick,
yeah.
John Smith says he's working out and it's making it weird. I think that he's confused that when people say do reps to get good at Warhammer,
Yeah, no, that's
different reps.
no, this is what they mean.
Getting working out.
Yeah, working out gets you better at Warhammer. It helps the dice technique.
Yeah, you just
it's all
in the biceps.
Yeah,
no leg days.
Just no leg days. Exactly. just uppers.
The legs are not necessary for dice rolling. Right.
So this is. I got a little lucky here. We're gonna be totally honest. It showed the swinginess of the Kronspine, right? The Kronspine failed to take out my Terrorgeist. I de-leveled the Kronspine. Then he tried to move his stuff in, couldn't get to it. And then on my turn again, which is what this one is showing, charged in a Terrorgeist, took out the Kronspine so that I'm all safe there. Took out his zombie dragon, so now his guy on Terrorgeist is there, ready to get nommed. Went to the back line with my ghouls and everything. Like at this point, his army is primarily gone. He is doing a little bit of an annoyance here with his flares, doing some stuff and trying to capture some objectives. But essentially, once the Kronspine went down, Gristlegore is the better monster on monster when the Kronspine's out of the picture. So ended up beating him. It was an okay margin. It wasn't like a blowout. It wasn't super tight. But I think that he ended up conceding like turn 4 or something.
Yeah.
Once that Terrorgeist went down, there was nothing left.
Nice.
And that was about it. So it was fun to win the mirror match. I suppose I also played my own army against a guy from Colorado, round 1. But I'm sure that's never going to happen to me again this tournament. So absolutely fine.
Impossible.
Oh yeah, there's a picture of all of his stuff dead.
So
that's good. Game 2. Back to you.
All right, back to the awful rats. This is the game I lost. This is also my first game versus Beast of Chaos. So I've never played him before. I think I learned a lot about what I could have done. I will say that of the types of armies that the list that I've got that is most afraid of, it's lists that I can't stop getting more wounds. And this is a list that I cannot stop from getting more wounds. They can rally on a 4, and they don't need the Herdstone, they don't need a hero alive, they can just bring stuff on the board edge, and there's no limit to the number of units that they can bring on. It is my nightmare scenario. So, as it turns out, that played out on the game table. So this was against Joe. I cannot pronounce your last name, Joe. I'm bad at it, and I'm not going to butcher it. You're a champion like all of my opponents. Sometimes you're worried about going to a tournament and ending up playing against that guy. I didn't play against any of those people.
You could just be that guy.
I was that guy. So this is where I want to talk about the experience. Glad to see you doing this. Oh man, it's good to see you on the chat, Jeremy.
Yeah.
Jeremy, I played Jeremy our first game in last year's FMC, and he's just a gem. So good to see you. Anyway. So what happened here? As you can see, I gave him first, like I promised I would on every opponent where I had the option. I've got my Vermin Lord Deceiver. I got like a 3-inch or a 2-inch, like 2d6 move up the board, so I didn't get real far with my guys. I stayed close enough to control all these. This is the close to the chest, where there's 6 objectives. That's the other thing I worry about, is when there's a lot of objectives. This isn't Silk Steel Nest, but it's the next best thing. So what's in his list? He's got 6 Enlightened, 6 Bulgor, a Bulgor hero, a Shaman, a few Ungor Raiders, a Bellicor, and off the board he put 20 Bestigor. Excuse me. And I didn't even catch that the Bestigor were Deep Strike. He just put his stuff down. I was like, whatever. I finished deploying after my dumb 2 drops. So this I didn't get as many pictures as I wish I had gotten. This is much later, so let me walk you through what happened. Let's see if I can go back. So in the first turn, he brought in 20 Bestigor and then summoned a spawn. Like, he's already blowing my mind with how much he can just summon turn 1. Like, my God. And then he charges those Bestigor in. he informs me that they're like 4 or 5 attacks a model. So I unleash Heck on the charge anyway. I unleash Heck with my Vermin Lord. I deal some decent damage, and then I pop the Shadow Magnet trinket and deal a bunch of damage to the Bestigor. That means that they then don't deal as much damage as statistically likely, and they leave him alive on like 5 wounds or something like that. They then run to Battle Shock because I killed a bunch of them. It didn't take a lot to deal a lot of damage to him, even though he's got a 5-up ward. So that was like, he moved stuff out a little bit. He kind of positioned. I don't think he even moved anything back here. I think he really just tried to nothing personal kid my Vermin Lord. And he's like, I'm the Maul Ninja in this. How dare you try to out Maul Ninja me? So then I take the turn. I run these guys up. I drop. This is obscuring, by the way. And in this battle pack, obscuring is just like if any line of sight gets drawn through it between the 2 closest points, you can't see through it.
Unless it's 10 or more wounds.
Unless it's 10 or more wounds, which none of the stuff that I care. All my toxic shooting is not that. I come in like gutter runners here, slink here, and then storm fiends right here in the middle. I just kind of move everything up and go ham. I lift most of the screens. I flub into this unit here. I kill all but like 1 of his Enlightened, which we're going to talk about that in a minute. I kill all but 1 of the Enlightened. Slink comes over here, bottom of 1 lifts, I can't remember. It was him or the gutter runners.
It was probably him.
It was somebody. He has to come within a certain distance of terrain. Maybe I lifted this and I charged him in. That's what it was. I got a big bomb charge into Be'lakor and lifted him. So Be'lakor was gone. He couldn't Be'lakor my Storm Fiends. Everything's coming up Skaven. Secretly in my heart, I'm like, I didn't kill enough stuff. I need a double turn, and I got a double turn. But then he rallies almost all of those guys back, which is like 20 wounds, which is not what this list can handle. So I do get, so here we go. This whole time, these Night Runners are trying to keep this 1 spawn that he summoned from taking this point. They are no damage. It's real sad. After my double turn, he's got, look at that. There's almost nothing left. There's a Gorgon. I did have to sacrifice my Deceiver to go in and both clean up the Enlightened that came back, and then try and kill the Bulgor, who are the other targets that, with all of this Ren that they've got, are going to lift my Storm Fiends. And I killed the hero, but I didn't kill the Bulgor. I got them down to 2 models. So then that did cost me my my Deceiver. Slink and his friends are in here, just like killing stuff. And then it goes to, like, at this point we're at the end of the first half of turn 2, and Joe wants to stop. He's like, or at least he talks in a way that is like, I'm ready to be done. And I'm like, hey, I get you. I'll take the free win, but I'll be honest with you. You can still win this 100%. And he's like, I don't see how. I'm like, trust me, bro. All you need to do is a little bit of damage, and I'm Thanos in the wind. And lo and behold, he takes the turn. He sets up to just get the double, which is what he needed to do to win, because I could just deal so much damage. So he moves the Gorgon over here. He rallies back almost all of his Bulgor. So at this point, I calculated he rallied 40 wounds of his best units back to the board. And I can't handle that. He brings in, I think, at this point, he has enough call points or whatever. He brings in like 2 or 3 units, like 1 Skyfire, 1 Ungor, and 1 Bestigor. So he's just taking points all over the board. He moves everything over, and then he double turns me. And sorry. So this is right before he won the double. So he's got the Skyfires here. You can't see it. He's got units over here off to the side. He's got units down here. He's got the spawn slowly killing my garbage screen unit, and like my general's dead. He's killed all of my gutter runners over here. I've got the gutter runners here, and man, he just wipes he comes in with all of these Bulgor and just wipes me up, brings the Gorgon in. I just can't do anything. I've got literally nothing left on the board, and he just still getting more. He's still bringing his army. It's like a worse, like as far as like bringing more onto the board. Like I get to deploy at the bottom of one. He gets to deploy every turn.
How does that summoning mechanic work? So like I have never played Beasts of Chaos.
Okay, I wasn't super clear. I don't feel like I need to know every little bit about my opponent's army. Like I'm just going to trust that you're playing your army.
Sure.
Right. As far as I can tell, he gets every monstrous action. He can spend one, whether there's anything nearby or not. Right. Doesn't matter. To get, I think, D3. He then can slit goat throats over by the Hearthstone to get D3. I think he gets D3 naturally, and I think he was rolling hot. I think he told me he was rolling hot on that, which is why he was able to bring in so much. And then at the end of the movement, you can bring in any number of units. You just keep spending. It's just money. What does it matter?
So you have to kill monsters and get the Hearthstone down to turn off the generation, but that doesn't turn off the spend.
And I think you can still that gets rid of 2D3, but he's still getting D3.
Wow.
So I made the choice not to stomp the Hearthstone, which was probably a mistake, but maybe not because he had already gotten a lot of call points. It would have stopped the 4-up rally.
Sure.
But I didn't want to. I didn't want to risk.
Rend though, doesn't it?
It stops the rend. I didn't want to risk the 33% chance of failure.
What did you do instead?
I killed almost everything.
Right, but not everything.
But not everything. So if I had killed the Bulgor, I probably would have I probably would have won the game.
Sure.
Like he's bringing stuff on, but then on my next turn, I go ham. I pull everything else off the table.
Sure.
He might have still just beat me on points because he's got stuff all over the board and I can't get there fast enough.
Yeah.
So I say that I've got a better chance. Yeah. So anyway. That's kind of how it went. I did end up losing. I'm glad he didn't quit because he deserved the win because he's a good player, and I probably won't ever play this list again at a tournament because it produced in every opponent I played a real soul crushing moment where they're just watching me pull their stuff. Do they have any play? No. They can't even stop me from coming on the board. If they do, they pull themselves so out of position. I just pull them. I pull them different, right?
Sure.
It's not pulling. It's like not pulling them. It's just I come down and I blast you. Then your army moves up to get to my blasting. I blast that too. You don't move. I come up. I blast you. It's just rough.
Yeah.
And for KC Open, I'll probably play something completely different. Something that isn't probably going to do as well. But now that I've gone 4-1, I could have gone 5-0. I think with the right matchups and the right dice rolls. And so, that's good enough for me. Sure. I'm going to go have a wackier time at the KC Open, and it's not going to be with this list. So if you're watching this thinking, how do I beat this list? I don't know. It's not going to be my list.
No, but it'll be 8 other people taking it.
Hey, if I start a trend with toxic rat lists that causes them to get nerfed, sorry, my rat friends. I doubt it, but I'm sorry. All right.
Awesome. So, my game 2 up against James.
So real quick, Carlos had a question. So I'm looking at the screen. Now I'm switching over here.
He is back and forth. Mr. Lefebvre, they are having the conversation there. He's trying to figure out
okay.
What Jeremy's taking.
Yeah, Jeremy's just a good player. Spoiler alert.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Look at his answer right there. In the rock, paper, scissors of Battle Regiment, Bounty Hunters, and Expert Conquerors, what did you take? Oh, I played all 3.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. That's big brain right there.
Jeremy, real quick, I'm going to talk about Jeremy's game 2.
Yeah.
He's not even part of this channel.
Go for it.
30, 45 minutes into my game 2, Jeremy's just walking around, looking at stuff. I'm like, what are you doing, bro? It's like, the nicest way ever. Oh, I'm all done. Did you win, Jeremy? Oh, yeah, I think, yeah. So I asked around later, I think that his opponent didn't really know how the Phoenicium list worked, and so he took 2 Maw Crushers, jammed it into his face, and then the Maw Crushers went away, and there was no army left, so they shook hands. Which is fair. If his whole army's left and your 2 Maw Crushers are gone, life's tough.
Yeah. That is as an advice, you don't really see much for Phoenicium. It's rare. Obviously they're good.
Yeah. I only know what it does because I played him once, and he explained to me what it was doing, and then because Jeremy was very, he was good about explaining what the list did. It just, you hear it, but do you like understand it? So I'm sure the same thing happened with the opponent. He explained it, but it didn't like really stick what it meant when twos and twos.
I feel like
that
list is one that you have to play it to understand. Just reading it, it's the same as like going up against Feeding Frenzy. I can tell you the thing, but you need to have me like do the pile in and then the pile in with a 3-inch reach to really be like, oh, that's what it means, not just he attacks again. Like you can read the rules, but once you go up against it, you really understand
you
what's
really
going on.
It. So anyway, great work to Jeremy.
Absolutely.
Right,
absolutely. So my game 2, I traveled 15 hours across barren desert. My game 2,
1,000 years.
1,000 years up against James. Awesome player. Played him in tournaments before. We always have a fun game. Always have a close game. He's a man after my own heart. We like to play really good, like crack knuckle, get in there, fight sort of games. Also, like 35 minutes north of me. But it's fine. It's fine. This game went down to the wire. It was a nail biter. Turns out, Blood Reavers, or what is the Blood of Corn? Blades of Corn. Blades of Corn. They want to play against Feck. They love Feck. I don't know if you guys are familiar with exactly how his mechanics work, but he generated 22 Blood Tithe points.
I couldn't figure out where it was all coming from.
Yeah.
Like, it's just because he had a bunch of units. It's like the advantage of having a Cockatrice, 2 Mind Stealers. The Mind Stealers are good. You've seen...
Yeah.
He's been playing them for a while, but most recently you probably have seen Nurgle taking them from the Warhammer Weekly. Who was that? It was one of those guys that was playing a Nurglist that they called the Mind Stealer as like their secret tech. Mm-hmm. It's just good. Super 5 out of 6 times you're fighting last.
Yep.
So and it's cheap, so it's just Blood Tithe. It's just Blood Tithe in the pocket.
Yep.
So.
Cockatrice putting on some range damage, and again Blood Tithe. I summon in stuff, more Blood Tithe. Like he generated so much Blood Tithe.
Surely, Carlos, it couldn't happen again. I have Tyler. Yeah. Oh yeah, Tyler did. Thank you, Derek. But Carlos, there's no way.
There's no way. But anyway, so we line up opposite corners of each other, essentially. Like we both sort of took this corner pockety kind of a deal. I am a real bad at taking this photography stuff. So this is way down the line. It was such a fun, intense game. We're 2 guys that know each other going for it. What this doesn't show you that I want to talk about, though, is Scarbrand. So he's got Scarbrand in the list, right? He started this all up in a kind of a castle formation, Blood Reavers in front, Bloodthirsters behind, Scarbrand in the very back, and the Demon Prince chilling out in that tower up there. Right. I had Terrorgeist up in front, and it's a matter of he wants me to go first to get up there so that he can come after me, blah, blah, blah. Scarbrand. Guy does crazy damage, right? Like silly damage. And he does sillier damage if he goes an entire turn without killing something. Or an entire round, entire round. Yeah. So his plan is, Scarbrand goes, sits in timeout. He gets all frustrated by being in timeout, and then he's all having a tantrum and comes out and beats the pants off of all of my units.
I don't know if I've ever seen pants on any of your units. I'm just saying.
You got to believe it's part of the
delusion.
It's part of the delusion. The pants
delusion.
The pants are delusional. So
I want that Grand Court delusional.
Delusional pants. So the lesson to be learned from this is you fail 100% of the things you don't try to do.
That's true.
He left a 3-inch by 3-inch little pocket corner in the very back of the board behind Scarbrand. And I summoned in 1 Crypt Infernal Courtier with my summoning points, 9 inches away from Scarbrand, made the charge, got obliterated, but Scarbrand got to let off a little bit of steam, and he never reached Super Saiyan mode the entire game because I sacrificed a little guy to him at the start of the game. Weird move, low chance of it succeeding with the 9 charge, but it probably won me the game, honestly, 100%. Was the fact that he did not get to that state. There was another big move, it was right before all of this. So he's got this thing where he can do a command ability, and now his Bloodthirsters can pile in 6 inches. Right. They slide in. I had a Terrorgeist down in that little circle spot you can see behind these blood thirsters and Scarbrand. There was a Terrorgeist here once upon a time. And his plan was, Scarbrand comes in and then does the big old 6-inch electric slide, jumps into it. I had a Vargulf here and the Terrorgeist here, and he moved Scarbrand up, and I redeployed the Vargulf to be 3/4 of an inch closer to Scarbrand than the Terrorgeist was. So he could pile in, but he had to go take my Vargolf, which meant that the other Bloodthirster was soloing it against the Terrorgeist, bought me some time, let me whittle things down. Anyway, super close game of us just killing each other's stuff left and right. This is like an end of the game picture here. He's got his bloodletters running up the side here to go take an objective. My general was right here. Scarbrand popped him out. You can see he's been freshly removed from the board to sit back there. I had an Arc Regent hiding in here, and bloodletters were like dueling him one at a time. It was such an epic game. This tournament was fantastic. Go next year if you can, guys. It was wonderful. What this came down to was way back here, way back here, there are 2 Fellbats that are left, right? And prior to combat, General's still alive and everything, blah, blah, blah. They redeploy, and I roll high enough to be outside of the 6-inch pile-in, and he fails his battle tactic of killing something. That is what this game came down to. It was like a 1-point swing. And it was, could my D6 roll high enough to get them out of there? And that's it. Like, came down to the last minutes of the round. We just went back and forth, lifting each other's big models in pieces. Scarbrand survived the entire game. He took my general over his knee and spanked him hard, like last round. Not for any reason. Didn't need to do it. But just did it. Yeah, that's it. No, it wasn't. I don't think it wasn't that he needed to kill the bats for his battle tactic. It was I needed to have 2 units in his deployment zone for the barge through. Mm-hmm. And you can't see him, but behind here is Andre Le Petit. As always, slinking around, being that guy. Hero, right? Little 4-wound, like 60-point hero, just hiding in the back. So, great game. Always fun to play James. Like, he's a blast to play.
And he's really good with his corn. He's been playing it forever. Like, this list doesn't look like just big monsters because he's played that and he's figured out how to play it better.
Yeah.
So it is big monsters, but it's better than you think. It's just better than people are used to out of corn. Mm-hmm. And I think he went 3-2 as well. Yeah. No, he was doing great. And yeah, because he up? No, he wasn't up in the like the top 10, but he wasn't top 10. No.
He ended up ahead of me for sure. But perfect. I think I only got 2 photos that whole game because it was just such a nail biter.
Right.
And because you were in the other room and I couldn't hear you yelling photo.
Yeah, I was in the top 5 tables were in the 40K hall, which was extremely busy. The 40K guys wouldn't take my gin and tonics either. These people.
Yep.
I was literally just, I had my little rat cart with a big sign that had like Scryer like repair kit, and I had like a kit of like glue and
dingly bells. It was very soothing.
Bells. It's like wind chiming.
Yeah, it was nice.
Like, cacophonous of like awful bell noises, but no, it's all like it's a wind chime. So when you see Skaven, don't think of like Vermintide. Think like Martha Stewart.
There you go. Yeah, just like that.
Yeah, it's like that.
It's a good thing.
Right? Game 3.
Game 3.
This is the last game of the day. It's me versus Tracy from Partners in War. She's just as awesome as Steve is. I think that she was a little bit hesitant because she might have heard from Steve what I'm doing. So it's Skaven is hospitality. I'm just here to bring you more warp power.
It's the first thing I think of when I think of Skaven. Hospitality.
So Tracy's playing Stormcast. She's got a neat little list here where she has 2 sets of dragons. One goes into the sky, one comes on the board. I don't think I took a picture of the deployment. I think I took a picture at the end of her first turn, so the top of one. You can tell because I had hidden my little hero back here, my Arc Warlock, knowing that no matter what happened, 2 sets of these long strikes that she had were going to come down, and nothing personal could that poor little dude. But the bright side is that in order for her to get that line of sight, she had to get danger close, which was just the price that I was willing to pay to get something as dangerous as long strikes into the kill box. So she has, let's see here, the Lord Draconis, Lord Arcanum, Knight Arcanum, the one with the Unbind Scroll, a Relictor with the teleport, and then the what are these guys called? The fulminators. And then I think there's one unit somewhere of Littlefoot objective grabbers, like liberators. I don't recall 100% because all I did is just showed up and started blasting. Not a lot of big brain moves. Oh, down in the corner here, you can't see it, are the other two dragons. So she came in, yeah. My picture wasn't even that good.
Okay.
You can see the edges of the ethereal wings that she did. Great paint job, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
From across the room, we were both like, I wonder what the paint job was for those dragons, because they look so good.
Yeah.
So anyway, this is where it started. He's untargetable, so I wasn't worried about them shooting my general off, because he's within an inch of terrain. So toxic. Oh, and this was arcane, so I had like big casting bonuses. It felt so good. Might not have been the right choice to put him there. There is no stopping me. +2 to cast. I will pull my own teeth just to have a chance to roll those dice. So I bring my Storm Fiends down here behind this tower. It helps the facing. She can't like get stuff in on every angle. Not that it really mattered. I dumped a lot of damage into the dragons. I think I left one dragon alive. Sling Skittershank came out near this lighthouse, and I think he killed whatever was over here and shooting, and then came over to try and engage the fulminators so that they couldn't get their charge bonuses. I lifted, no surprise, with my gutter runners here and gutter runners here, both of the long strikes, and then my Vermin Lord Deceiver came up here. I'm sorry, and I did lift both the dragons. And then there's still 2 dragons down here in the bottom right. So I've killed a bunch of stuff. It's not over yet because she's still got fulminators on the board. She's still got 2 dragons on the board. My guys and the dragons are in bounty hunters. My little gutter runners are wafer thin. They die to everything. And I have no +1 damage on my Storm Fiends because my +1 damage friend is dead, which is why I had the ability to drop them where I did because I didn't have to worry about keeping them somewhere near my my Arc Warlock, and I'd never forget to do that in Game 4. So next, let's see where we ended up. She brought, I can't remember how she got the dragons over so fast. Sometimes the dragons just move, and I don't know why they're so fast.
They're very fast.
They're very fast.
That's what they do.
She got the dragons all the way over there. Maybe it was a teleport. Maybe it was Maybelline. I think I retreated out the Slink or something. Anyway, I was able to kill a Fulminator here. My Vermin Lord Deceiver, nothing personal kid, teleported over to this side of the map. And I think that he was flanked by some gutter runners somewhere over there. I can't really see them in my shot. Maybe hiding near this terrain. Gutter runners out here in the middle. I don't think that they're long for the world. And then I've got the Storm Fiends still there, just blasting away.
Where'd all her models go?
Oh, I don't know. Just awful rat stuff. So this is, I think, at the end of the game. There was a brawl in the middle. It came down to both dragons coming into my 6 Storm Fiends and the Fulminator. Slink was over here burning objectives because this was Silk Steel Nest, I'm remembering.
Frickin' Slink.
So Slink was just over here shooting stuff, burning one objective at a time, and the whole time she's busy trying to get me under control. She isn't able to focus on burning my objectives, so I'm really just getting ahead on points the whole time. And then after she fails to kill them, my gutter runners go in. They deal a ton of damage. They eventually die, but between them and my general, I clean up her remaining heroes. I clean up the remaining dragons, and it's just some Storm Fiends and some rat heroes just peeing on all her stuff. Sorry, Tracy. You were awesome, and I'm sorry I gave you such a negative game. She never said anything, but you play people, and you can just tell, like, oh man, here we go. It was close though. It felt close to both of us, I think, and I think that really helps. I really think it helps when you feel like you're in the game the whole time.
Absolutely.
I didn't get a double turn in this, and so I don't think that it was quite as oppressive as it could have been. So it was a good game. I was able to turn it around just on points alone. Even if she had tabled me, it was hard for her to catch up. So good game, Tracy. I was able to come out 2-1 at this point, and it goes over to Mr. Shannon.
All right. So this is another great example of not taking enough pictures, but we'll do what we can.
Ian, yes, I did say maybe it was a teleport, maybe it was Maybelline.
Oh boy. So my game 3 up against Jesse Brandt, super cool guy. We ended up going to the bar with him afterwards that night.
Oh yeah,
yeah, super cool guy, super friendly. He was just happy to be there. He had apparently just like moved the last year, hadn't got to do any Age of Sigmar. He showed up at the tournament just hyped and game to go, running Stormcast Eternals. He had a little bit of everything. He had his long strikes. He had the Star Drake. He had some Fulminators. He had something that ends in an ER that's a foot troop. He had some kind of a character that had the word knight in front of it or lord in front of it. Everything in Stormcast is the same to me.
It's a knight or a
It's
lord.
got a high armor save. It's a can of Spam. There's meat in the inside, and I just got to bite through.
Lightning meat.
But he was running Aventus, the mage.
Oh,
Yeah.
I remember seeing this list and was like, this is just somebody's collection.
It's all this stuff.
Is this really an army? And then he was doing really well.
Yeah,
so,
and we talked about it, and he was like, "Yeah, I wanted to bring all the stuff that I like to bring," and he's good with it for sure.
Practice, like, as long as you know what you're doing with it, you just use the tools.
You can do well, yeah. For sure. It was a rougher game for me. The threat range of a Terrorgeist is 30 inches if a spell goes off correctly.
Right.
The shooting range of the long strike is 30 inches. So I can deploy out of their range and not be effective and get shot next turn.
Right.
Or I can deploy in their range and try to like head down and run forward. He ended up spiking, rolling well enough to just take my general off with long strikes.
That's
Top of 1. Just
it's brutal.
pick up and gone.
You've never seen long strikes before. They're brutal.
Oh, it was a little rough. I'm a super command point hungry army, so losing 4 command points, or no, 9 command points for my general being taken off top of 1 is massive to my army. Losing the hitting power, et cetera. So he shoots him. I pick up the model, and while I'm set it to the side, he's like, man, when I got here, I was actually like really excited to play you. I was like, oh, really? Yeah. He's like, yeah. I was like, I hope I get to play him because you won Best Sportsman last year, right? Like I was like, oh, it's gonna be a fun game. And I'm like sitting there holding my model that just got shut off. I'm like, well, damn it. I guess I'm gonna be cheerful this game, aren't I? But all in all, it ended up being like a real close, real fun, tight game. Again, I don't have a ton of pictures to show because of it. But essentially, what it came down to was last round, he's sitting there trying to. We got all 5 rounds in there. I got top of 5. I'm working on my stuff. He was sitting back in his chair, and he's like, "I'm gonna be honest, man. My heart is thundering right now." He's like, I'm glad you got the turn because I don't know what to do. So I'm sitting there like messing with stuff. Nope. I do not have another. I don't know how to go back either. I'm gonna stop touching technology. Beautiful. There we go. So I ended up like running my vampire on the side to block him off there, and essentially, he picked a battle tactic. It ended up being like the wrong one, so we retconned it to get it set because all the Stormcast ones are all like named the exact same thing. So he just ended up saying the wrong thing. Didn't matter. You can see my Ghoul Courtier right down here in the corner. Again, Ghoul Courtiers win games. I ran him all the way back here.
I hate that goddamn Ghoul.
I know, everyone does, but God, they're so good. So I ran him all the way back to that corner. In order for him to win, he had to get his battle tactic. Otherwise, I would win by 1 point. And if he got his battle tactic, then he would win by like 2 because his battle tactic was also tied into grand strategy somehow. I don't remember what it was. It all came down to, could the Star Drake kill that Ghoul Courtier with its shooting attack? And that came down to the game in the last 5 minutes of the round. The answer is yes, because Ghoul Courtiers have 4 wounds and like a 5-up save and a 6-up ward. So he ended up rolling well enough. I did not make my ward saves, and he ended up winning by like a point or 2. Such a close game, like real tight game, real fun game. Jesse is a great opponent. If you guys are anywhere in the Oklahoma area, go play a game with him so he can play some more Sigmar. Like, great guy. Right. Super fun. That's all I got on that. I only have the 1 picture.
All right, no worries. It's hard to remember, man. You're in the middle of it. Especially that's game 3. It's the last
game 4. It was the winner of our game went on to go play Jeremy next round.
That's right.
So yeah, so if I had taken them, I would have had to deal with the Phoenix Garden. It doesn't work well for me either.
It's funny, Jeremy. When we went out to, this is when we found the Warbeard, right? We went out to the brewery.
Well, we found it in the hotel, and then we found the teat. We found where it comes from. Afterwards, again, just spotting in Warbeard there.
So this is when we found the place that brews and sells at. We walked down. And we were talking to him like, okay, my friend, you're the last bulwark against Jeremy's next.
Can anything stop him?
Can we stop him? And the answer was no.
No. The answer was no. I'm sure it was a great game. But he was like, yeah, Phoenicium. What does that do? And it's like, oh, buddy.
Well, we're gonna tell you, and then you're not gonna understand it, and then Jeremy's gonna play like a champion.
Indeed.
Okay, so
that name's familiar.
Yeah, James Fryer.
Look at that.
So I only had to play one person from had to play. It's not like it's bad. It's just
no.
you want to play people you never met before.
Yeah, it's a little variety.
I had the opportunity to play just one of our Colorado friends, and it was James Fryer again from your second game. And James and I have played a few games before. I don't play as much as Shannon has, so I've only played him like once or twice. And going in, I knew that I had an edge on Corn, which is why I knew I was going to make awful dumb mistakes and almost throw the game, which is literally what happened. Oh, man. So let's go through my deployment. This is Nidus Path. And if you're not familiar with Nidus Paths, you can go wholly within a corner and come out wholly within a corner, within 6. You know what's great about rat holes? You can't.
Nothing's great about rat holes.
You can't put a Scarbrand back there. He was putting a Scarbrand back there after I had put my null holes to block off both the Nidus paths, and I was like, okay, let's like full disclosure, my friend. If you put your Scarbrand there, you can't use Nidus paths. And then it kind of dawned on him, and we moved where his Scarbrand was at, but just little some rat tech. Those null holes, there's infinite value. So anyway, just FYI, if you're playing a rat person, and that rat person puts his stuff in the corners, it might be Nidus paths. I put my guys back in the deep corner, and that was one of my errors. I didn't think about where I was putting my Arch Warlock, and that was going to put him out of position of giving +1 damage, which was a fool's choice. So anyway, I gave it to him. In this corner here is the
clock tower?
Not the clock tower.
No.
The Demon Prince. He's garrisoning that house.
He loves garrisoning that guy.
That's because it makes his base bigger, and everything. Anytime you can make that aura bigger, it's just more value.
Fair. And doesn't he have like the blood slick fields?
Blood slick ground.
Yeah, that's the one.
If you haven't played against it, it's an 18-inch. Wholly within or within? I can't recall. Within aura. Within. If you're within 18 inches of the dude until his next hero phase, you have your charges. Halving charges is brutal. You know what you should remember? That when deep striking your Slate Skinner shake. We'll get there.
Oh boy.
There goes my cascade of foolish mistakes in a matchup that should have been in the bag. I say that like I was guaranteed. Obviously I wasn't, because James is a good player.
Right.
So he has a Mind Stealer there. He's got the Cockatrice up here. He's just got some rando dudes spread all over the course.
I didn't even have to take pictures of our game. You've got pictures of his army.
Oh, yeah.
That was just me thinking ahead.
He's got the Pylon Bloodthirster back here. He's got the Insensate Bloodthirster here, and he's got the Scarbrand there, and then the Slaughter Priest in his slaughterhouse up top. So he just moves everything up, right? That's all he does. It's nothing. It's not like gigantic Gigabrain stuff. I in order to get time on target, I had to bring my Storm Fiends here. But I could only teleport my little rat hero here, and that meant I was not wholly within 13 to produce more warp damage. So I was able to teleport my Vermin Lord here, get up, and Nothing Personal Kid his 6-inch pylon. And here's where we're back to the toxicness of this list, where he's like, well, the game is over, because he relies on that Bloodthirster, right, to not have to make charge rolls.
Sure.
He just makes run rolls and then guarantees a pile-in a way that does not allow me to go back and forth in combat. Well, not only am I not +1 damage, I whiffed my shots hard into his army. And I do drop my gutter runners here, and I dropped gunner runners right here. I charged them in. They took a lot of damage getting charged in. I was able to kill a cockatrice here that grabbed the objective, and I'd still done I'd done work. I lifted a unit of blood reavers.
Yeah.
I think I killed a critical bloodthirster, and I was doing okay. I got the double. Guess what feels real bad? Doubles getting shot by this list. So I was able to double him. Somebody's finger is in the way. James is probably reaching across the table. There's no way that could have been my finger. This is much later in the game.
Okay. I thought this was one turn. It was like, wow.
It's very close. Wow. I think it might be just turn 3. This is probably bottom of 3.
Okay.
What happened is I shot into him. I killed a bloodthirster. I again whiffed into Scarbrand. Scarbrand came out and nothing personal kitted the Storm Fiends, which wasn't great, but I didn't need them to win. I was continuing to grind away at his stuff with the Vermin Lord Deceiver, and I was in combat with his Mind Stealer Spheranx up here. There's not a lot left on his board. I mentioned that I deep struck Skink Skittershank in my turn. I deep struck him thinking I was going to charge this Demon Prince, forgetting about Bloodslick Ground.
Right.
So they're flapping in the wind. I lost a lot of damage there. 21 shots, 6 of D3 mortal wounds. Not shots, but 21 total attacks. I could have done so much better if I had just gotten them in somewhere.
Sure.
But I didn't because I'm dummy. Then he comes in, he kills my stuff. I think he brings in like a bloodthirster. He starts bringing. He's got so much blood tide that's it's raining bloodthirsters. Then let's see here. What had happened at this point? I got to go back and forth. This is a rare case where I remember to take my actions. This is my turn 4. I kept the turn. I moved Slink up, and I was just trying to clear off the stuff to move up my Vermin Lord. I backed some stuff out so that the Mind Stealers weren't continuing to light me on fire, and I moved my Arc Warlock up north to prevent him from getting murdered. These Night Runners were just moving up off the objective to get damage because he couldn't night his path in. He took the turn, summoned a pile-in Bloodthirster, right? Like I said, he just started summoning Bloodthirsters. Summoned a pile-in Bloodthirster, and then I was able to take off Scarbrand with my Fights First. What's his name? The Deceiver. And he was hurting. I was down to very little. I'd taken off the Spheranx. He still has Spheranx here, and his Blood Secretor was back here. My rat was yelling awful, mean things at him, but aside from that, not doing a whole lot. This is the one I took the most pictures. Sure. I don't know why. It was early. I was feeling fresh. I was remembering my stuff. This is the end of the game. He had the Pylon Thirster. He had Insensate. Pylon Thirster was here. Insensate was here. I just outscored him on points. I kept him bottled up too long. And then I denied him his Grand Strat, which was the Kill the Battle Line, the one that I had.
Oh, sure.
I killed all his battle line and got mine. Denied his as my last hateful move was to teleport my hero down here, and then just ran my max 6 inches, my gutter runners or my night runners back along the board, and that ended up winning me the game. I didn't have a lot left on the board, but you don't have to have stuff on the board to win the game.
Nope.
So it was a great game by James, and it was super close because I'm my own worst enemy sometimes. Off to you.
So sometimes like you get good dice rolls, you get all sorts of stuff. Like the gods favor you. Sometimes you get matched up with just
Scroll down.
Scroll down.
I'll move the mouse over.
Oh, move the mouse over.
Left. All the way to the other screen.
Left. This left. This left. This left.
Let me take it.
Yep, I broke it again.
I
don't know what I'm doing. So round 4.
Derek.
I got Derek. I drove 15,000 miles across 4 different planets and end up playing, the guy I play all the time. Obviously, we're going to have a great time. Derek, such a good opponent all the time. I actually met Derek at Flying Monkey Con last time.
Oh, I didn't know that's where you met.
Blasted my army off the table with Techless, having me just sit down there and enjoy rum and coke. And it was a great rum and coke. Not gonna lie. And obviously, still talking to him and hanging out with him today, so it wasn't that bad.
Right.
But that's when we found out that Techless is an absolute beast in close combat. He soloed 3 Terrorgeists and took them all down. Just ridiculous nonsense. Ridiculous nonsense. Anyway, so we're Nidus pathing. We remembered to take a bunch of photos, and by we, I mean Thomas was in the room yelling, "Take a photo!" So we actually got that all set. I've got my little line of screens up there. I got my line of bats. My guy's back here, and then a little courtier, babysitting that back here. He's got his Tokyo Drift style pigs, making a big wall there. Little wall of spiders there. Crushers in the back. This game is an example of 2 individuals that don't believe in their army, because every time anything would happen, we'd be whoever it was would be like, "Oh, yep, well that's the game. I'm done. There's no way my Terrorgeist can hold up to this. There's no way my Maw Crusher can hold up to this." Like back and forth, we were just poo-pooing our own armies, and it turns out we were both wrong. That we both need to just understand that the dice really decide what's good and what's not. He gave me first turn. I ended up going up there, taking out spiders. I committed this Terrorgeist up here without character support, which is real hard on my army. I need command abilities for everything, because I'm too old of a book to have free cool stuff that I do. Everything's a command ability. And the Terrorgeist just underperformed. He did not do what he needed to do in screams or in damage. So he got locked out there and just pulled apart by pigs. This side, I kind of was redeploying back and got a guy tucked back in the corner for pigs to go engage there. He had his other Maw Crusher hanging back to kind of babysit the Nidus path. And then I kind of have little things all dotted around protecting my general here, because we both know my general's the big beat stick in this one. And it's going to come down to who gets to fight first, his general versus my general, when they finally inevitably engage. Then a lot happened.
Sorry, the middle of the screen.
Oh, yeah, no. So you can see the clever placement of a Maw Crusher on top of a pillar slightly smaller than his base up there.
Who would do that?
Who would do that? And I know exactly who would do that. But I've got ghouls running around here to go on Nidus path back. We ended up having some weird stuff happen over here. He ended up, charging pigs in to try to take an objective from me, and the pigs got slapped back by Terrorgeist. This Terrorgeist, obviously, is dead. Yes, that is a Maw Crusher on that tree.
Unchargeable location.
So he's unchargeable, but I set it up so that I'm also unchargeable because of things being around me. So we're just kind of staring at each other there.
Screaming, and one of them's better at screaming than the other.
Exactly. Although he's got that touched by the wall thing, so he's trying to flick me with damage. It got a little silly here, guys. I'm gonna be totally honest. It got a little silly. This is his second Maw Crusher. His first one, if you'll notice, is gone. He charged it in and then flubbed all of his rolls, and he did some damage to me, but I ended up eating him and healing it all back. So he charged in, and I was like, well, my Terrorgeist is dead. It has no defense. But then he rolled nothing. And then he's like, well, I rolled nothing. Now my stuff is dead. And then it just went back and forth and back and forth. It was some nonsense. But this is the linchpin moment of the game. I'm sorry, Derek, we got to talk about it, because there's really no reason why the result should be the way it is, unless it is what it is here. So,
and yes, Derek, I did keep your inappropriate slide at the end of this game.
Ah, wonderful. Is it at the very end?
Yeah, it's at the very end.
Okay, perfect. So you can see down here we got some pigs on this objective, holding this here. And you can see right here there's not some pigs. Right. Down here holding this objective. Unless is this a Derek view? This is a Derek view?
This is a U view.
No.
Oh, yeah, this is Derek's side of the table.
This is Derek's side of the table.
So it's anyway, the house.
Yeah, so right here, you can see those pigs are right here behind the blue and not up there. Derek picked defile their trees, desecrate their lands,
Right.
and then didn't.
Then just ran away.
It just ran away. We don't know why. It was an intense game. Mostly, both of us were concerned about this. As you can see, my Terrorgeist is not there. His Maw Crusher is. Like, that went in his favor. But that's 2 points down right there. I try to capitalize on it and am making a beeline for this back one here. I hold this one right now. My guys are popping through the Nidus Paths. Proving Ground ends up being an important thing coming up here, because we'll Proving Ground here, and I'll throw ghouls on top. Yes, this is Derek's advice on it. The dildo of consequences rarely arrives lubed. The game was decided by that
mistake,
that error in judgment there. His Maw Crusher eventually ends up coming down, but it's too little too late.
Right.
He's pulling apart my guys, but it doesn't matter at that point.
And he lost by 2 points, then he would have gotten 3 for the Grand Strat.
Yeah. So that's that. A great game. Obviously, always happy to play Derek.
Right.
Super, super fun. And it came down to one oopsies. So.
All right, game 5. This was what I was talking about. This is where I got to play my first game with a chess clock, which you can see it right there next to the hype button. Super great guy. I think that he had played last year. I talked to him about it, like, so why the clock? Like, I like, it's your choice. It's no biggie. 1 point. There you go. So sad story for Derek. But I talked to Sean, and he said that he played 5 games last year at that tournament and finished none of them, and felt like that cost him some games.
Yeah, that's rough.
He bought the cheapo chess clock that you can see right here. It's the cheapest thing on Amazon, and we played with it, and it's stressful when you first get going, but then it's just, as long as you're finishing your games, it doesn't actually matter.
Yeah.
And then if you don't finish your games and you are, that just means that they're running their timeout. So, hey, if you don't like playing with it, no worries, but take it from somebody that was like sweating bullets. It ain't that bad. So anyway, this is a dock list, 15 bow snakes, Marathi. I think that this is after his first movement, partway through his first movement when I remembered to take my picture. So this isn't his deployment. He had Marathi back here. He had multiple lines of screens. He was so freaked out by my list because he had a friend in his own Discord who played Skaven, and he's like, bro, this guy's going to do 1 billion damage, and there's not going to be anything on the board. You can't do anything about it. So whoever got into his head, thanks, buddy.
Got a quick question from Carlos there on the chess clock.
All right, so when playing with the chess clock, if you are in your turn and the opponent's save rolls are done on your time, their time. So you're working together, like in a as long as you're like playing an honest, like, good game, you're just trying to catch each other's time. And maybe sometimes you roll on their time and they roll on your time, as long as you're not just like being like obnoxious about it. Like, you're just never hitting your button. He was doing most of the button hitting for us because it was his choice, and he's trying to make it a good experience. And so by doing the chess clock thing for both of us, it took a lot of the worry off of me because I wasn't thinking about it as much. And as long as I'm just playing the game, it's all good. It's
only a tap, tap, tap if they still have models to do stuff with. If you get rid of them by turn 1 or 2, there's no more tapping.
Yep. And honestly, like the mortal wounds, there's not a lot of saving when there's no saves.
Nope.
Oh, it's such a fun list to play against. So anyway, I had my 2 Nahals back up here to try and like anchor him in the back. This is Prize of Galay. He went first, I went second. I activated this objective, trying to pull him out and around this line of sight blocking terrain, which is really annoying. I had my Vermin Lord Deceiver back here, split between Arcane. Like I said, I'll pull my own teeth to get +2 to cast. So I was getting Arcane from this train. I was getting my +1 to cast from that, from the Nahal, which is just part of the faction train. And then I had my little guys. I chose not to run them up so as not to allow too much room for Marathi and the 10,000 layers of screens to get in my way. So he pulled stuff up. He didn't get to. I don't think he got to shoot because he couldn't reach my hero where he was placed, and then he couldn't target my Vermin Lord. He might have taken some pot shots of these guys. I don't recall. I think he was trying to keep everything safe. He moved stuff over like a little bit further over here, and when he moved out here, he created a little 6-inch pocket. Guess what I put in that little pocket that was 6 inches away from everything?
Skitter Skank.
Skitter Skank got right up in the back of the field. So like the whole time he was really like, I like no one showed the stress this list caused as well as Sean did, and he was a great player too. As the game went on, he was like, I just as I started lifting his models, I feel like he felt like it was showing badly on him, and he was like, I just want you to believe that I just want you to see that I'm a good player.
I know how to play this game.
I know. That was one of the things he said. I do know how to play this game. I'm like, bro, you're doing really well. And it was really close in the end because even though I shock and awe you down, it's you do damage and all my stuff goes away.
Right.
So this is after my turn. I just kind of run stuff up. I don't think I get my teleports off. Let me.
Derek.
Yeah.
Your comment was held for review.
Yeah, I had to take a break to bring my mouse over to allow you to be inappropriate. So I lifted a bunch of his screens, 3 inches high.
Nice.
3 inches more than your average get, right? So I brought these guys down because this is as far. I had to be this far away, given how big his screens were. I started the clock on Marathi. I had gutter runners here and gutter runners there. I was plinking wounds away at the bow snakes, but that 4-up rally from High Orator on his general was a pain. I opted not to shoot into her so as to put damage on them. I knew that I was using to get half of his guys back on average, but he was spending command points to do it, all that stuff. And I was just, it was a choice. When I came in and I moved, he deployed in such a way that I couldn't just charge in, or else I probably would have gone all in on the general.
Sure.
But I did a lot of damage. He was really feeling it. His High Gladiatrix was over here. And then, what did I do? I do what this list hates, like everyone hates on this list. I got a double turn.
Yep.
And look, there's nothing left.
Oofta.
This list, man. Apparently, like we had a discussion. Apparently, like his take on holding a terrain is that you hold them like objectives, where you get to,
not anymore. They FAQ'd it.
Like you get to just walk away from them.
Yeah. Nope.
We talked it out. He was like, "I think it is." I'm like, "I'll take it if you let me have it." But anyway, I could have easily taken either of these. It just let me put these guys here rather than 3 inches up there. It didn't affect the outcome of the game.
Sure.
If I felt like it was going to be a big difference, I would have probably gotten a TO ruling. But because it was so inconsequential, I just rolled with it. It is what it is. So. I kept the clock ticking on Marathi. She was down to 6 wounds at this point. He was down to his general and 1 bow snake. So he was still in it, baby. If I'd gotten rid of that bow snake, we probably would have shook hands. But he was still in it. My general was out here just getting in the way of Marathi, knowing that I could fight first and then yeet out of combat.
Sure.
But I made that clear to him, so he made all of his decisions with charges and stuff with that in mind. He then takes the turn and doubles me back. So he takes 2 turns. This is the end of the game.
Wow.
He lifts the Storm Fiends with Marathi. He doesn't charge them. He charges the Gutter Runners. They deal their 6 wounds to her, or their 3 wounds to her. She's down to 3. She's like playing around here, desecrating this part of the terrain. My guy is just jumping around. He rallies back up to like 7 bow snakes, but that's mostly because he rallied and then charged his general in. Oh, that's right. He charged the general in to absorb the Unleash Hex so I wouldn't keep the clock going.
Sure.
And like it was effective. I did just kill her outright, and that
Right.
stopped him from continuing to get damage out of the bows by through rally. Maybe the choice should have been to leave her back and just let Marathi eat it on the chin. I don't know. But anyway, the ultimately what happened is then I continued to maintain turn priority, and I just ground him down and won on points, lifted Marathi, etc. with all the damage. So I did end up winning it. It did go to 5. We did go to nearly the end of the entire time that we had. So at the end, we just ignored the clock because we were both pretty close, and we were keeping it. No one was playing slow. So at that point, no one really cared. We're just like, we'll just play to the end. We're going to make it to the end. There's nothing to be worried about.
Right.
So Sean was an awesome. Sean is very good at Warhammer. Let me say it on the internet. Sean, you don't have to be worried. You're a really good player, and it's just a list that sucks the life out and fun out of playing the game for some people. And there's nothing wrong with that. For most people. So and he almost had it. Like it wasn't as though it felt like a steamroll, and you saw the pictures. There's nothing left. But then with nothing, you can lift most of my army.
Sure. Yeah.
So it was a good game, and I really appreciate the game that we had. He was the one that started taking the gin and tonics.
There you go.
Finally, somebody. So anyway, I'll pass it to you. That's how I ended on 4-1.
Gotcha. Yeah. So my game 5, I am really bad at taking photos. This is like turn 4.
And you're 3-1.
This is so far in. Yeah, I'm 3-1 at this point. So I wish that I had a chess clock for this one. I want to make it real clear. I don't think that my opponent like intentionally slow played.
Right.
He just has a list that benefits from not getting further through the game. Like you were talking before, there are different play styles where I want to get to the end of the game because I'm all about killy, or if I'm more about stand and hold, I want to have the early.
And I wouldn't even say that it benefits from not ending the game. It just scores the most at the beginning. Right?
Yeah. Well, so he's Legion of the Night and he's Soul Blight Gravelords. So he ended up putting like 3 or 4 units, maybe it was just 3, in reserve to pop in and bring in later.
Right.
So because of that, when turn 3 rolls up, and if your grand strategy is take what's theirs,
right,
then as long as you've held them back in reserves, you could just pop them into their side of the board, and now you've got the thing. And the longer the game goes on, the longer you can't just hold on to those units. Versus, if the game's only going to go to 2 to 3 rounds, it's he's got plenty of bodies on there to continue to hold the field without another 40 or 60 bodies in there. So it just it was a fine game. It was a fun opponent. We had beers and etc. It was a slow game. We only got through 3 turns. I ended up chunking through all the skeletons, all the Graveguard, a bunch of the zombies up there, most of the zombies there, one of these units of dogs. I had to do so much eating to work on this game. I think I've got it for sure. Nope. Wow. I really took no photos there. I don't know how to go back.
Oh, just scroll up.
Beautiful. Oh, wonderful. That makes it easy.
I guess I forgot to hide that last one. Well, I ended up hiding all Derek's stuff ever. I couldn't figure out how to get him in.
Sure. But, end of the last one, he just pulled in. He got his grand strat. Mine was eat all of that battle line, and if I had another turn, I would have had it for sure, because I still had 2 Terrorgeists at that point. I was sitting in a great position on 3. We just ran out of time. Right. So, and whether or not it was him summoning things and him moving zombies, or if I took a bunch of time, we won't know without that chess clock. That clock also lets you hold yourself accountable.
Right. It's a 2-way street.
Exactly. 100%.
And if you have a super slow list, I mean, there's nothing wrong with bringing the chess clock as a show of good faith. I'm playing 30 pink horrors. I'm bringing the chess clock so that you know that I think that I can get through this game. Absolutely. I'm not here to give you a bad time, and I'm gonna start the game off on a good foot. Maybe a better foot than if somebody just said, "Oh, this guy's got 900 horrors. He's gonna get on the objectives early, score some points, and then we won't get through turn 2."
Absolutely.
So it's not like that. And so
still good opponent. Obviously knew his list. It was bodies, Redigar, Manfred, and a Necromancer.
Right.
And that was it.
And he went 4-1. So he's a good player.
He did super well. I just wish I could have finished the game, because I feel like
you would have caught up in the end.
I would have caught up in the end for sure.
All right. Well, that's our summary, our recap. Those are the stats, and those are our games. And that's how we did. We had a great time. It was fantastic.
If you jumped in later on when we were talking on games and stuff, once this is done, go back, check out the stats because there's fun, kind of interesting stuff.
I agree.
The game's in an exciting place right now.
Absolutely.
Definitely worth checking out.
Well, we appreciate you guys. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you all next time.
Yep.